At 6:02. All right. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, it does not look like we have any public comments today. And so we will move on. I'm going to move up the approval of minutes.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Oh, sorry. Skip the roll call. Moving through too fast.
Roll call. Marguerite Comerford is absent. Raquel Duenas is absent. Ryan Firestone.
Present.
Sage Entner.
Present.
Eric Jacobson.
Present.
Patrick Murphy.
Mostly present.
Susie Taylor.
Chastised.
Just in time. Sorry, Matalaha. Back to school night. Oh. All right, thank you for doing roll call. All right, and then we've been through public comments. We don't have any presentations. It does not appear we're going to have a police department report.
Shocking.
There's no one here today. Yeah, so let's move up item 7, approval of minutes from the August 1st, 2019 regular meeting. Everybody has a chance to take a look.
Wherever they went.
Yeah. Okay, anything that anybody sees that need changes or questions? All right, so a motion to approve if anyone's ready.
I move to approve the minutes from...
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we've again moved too quickly because we will be having a public works report today. So when Greg gets here, we'll move on to that. Maybe we could, do you want to flip things a little bit and go and do,
Or I can begin with a little bit of pickleball.
do you want to start there? Or we could do recreation staff report updates now. And then as soon as Greg gets here, because 2 of the 3 items are, oh, there we go.
Present and accounted for.
Perfect timing.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Thank you very much. I'll be here all week.
Thank you for coming. We're ready.
Oh, we're ready. Okay, all right. Wasn't quite
Just-
sure
just
what
in
it was. What were you? Remind me what we were talking about.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, well, the first is the bike, and the project. Maybe you can give Greg a little bit more information on what information you're looking for that project, and then he can expand on it.
You're talking about the safety and accessibility for bikes in the downtown, in Ojai?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The safety and accessibility for bicycles downtown. Is that what we're saying? So I know. I guess for one thing, there's the ATP project. The Active Transportation Program project, which the city received significant grant funding, right? The $2.8 million grant, which was, let's see, we had $330,000 design contract, which is underway. So we're working with a design consultant and Caltrans, and keep in mind this is all, that grant was for all of Maricopa Highway in the city, right, from El Roblar to the Y, and then the Y all the way out to Gridley. And that's supposed to put bike lanes in all the way, fill in sidewalk gaps that are on the way, and improve the crosswalks safety, and then finally to do tree infill as well. So that was that project, and there's a lot of coordination. That's all Caltrans right of way, so we have to permit all that work with Caltrans. And so that's underway. Our schedule is approximately 1 year out to finish the permitting with Caltrans and secure the construction funding by December of next year, 2020, and begin the work that summer afterwards, 2021.
So just to clarify, when we're talking about bike lanes from the Y to Gridley, we're talking about straight down Main Street?
Right, Ojai Avenue, right? It would be bike lanes, yeah. So that would be, you know, we have a travel lane that's out there. We have a median pretty much all the way through the entire area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there'd be the travel lane for the cars and then a bike lane next to the parking lane, which occurs on and off. And when you get in the downtown core, it's too narrow, so that'd be proposed as a sharrow, right, where you just have the sharrow. And that's really a fairly ideal place to have a sharrow because it's relatively slow traffic, but there's not enough room without moving curbs.
Right.
So we don't propose to move curbs at all on the whole project. It's an expensive measure.
And the bike lane would be, in essence, would people go both ways on bikes on the same?
No, it'd be for each side.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and there are, for reference, on the city's Public Works website, there's an ATP project page.
Okay.
And that has some renderings you might have seen we did on that as well. So, and it does require a lot of work with Caltrans because there has to be exceptions on it, right? Everything that's out there is kind of quasi-standard. You know, the medians are supposed to be 11-foot minimum, but they're 10-foot right now as they exist out there, which is really adequate, but it doesn't meet the Caltrans standard. I mean, you see delivery trucks parked out there in front of the arcade all the time, and traffic still flows fine by it, but that's the standard. So there's a lot of negotiation there. Certain curb extensions proposed at corners to help, you know, highlight and make it a safer pedestrian crossing area. But I guess you were more interested specifically in the biking, so yeah, it would be the bike lanes there. And out on Maricopa Highway, not really the downtown core, but we're proposing the lane reduction from 4 to 2, and that provides a whole lot of space. So then you can actually have the travel lane you're on. You can have a parking lane that separates the bike lane, and that's it's considered the ultimate in safety for a bike lane without going to a class 1 like the old railroad, you know, route is out here, the Ojai Valley Bike Trail. So that project, well underway, and then we're working to we were just in the middle of doing a lot more bike racks around town, and the ones on Caltrans right away have to go through a permit on each one of those. We're doing that as well. And I think we're also looking at, it was brought up in our paving that we're doing for this fall, that we considered, you might be familiar in front of the Agave Maria. There's a tree there with a kind of a wacky cross slope on a sidewalk that goes around it. So we were going to repair that area from where the nest is down past Wachters and make a full ADA compliant sidewalk. And there was some concerns about squeezing the road too much. So we pulled back that project to just fix that problem around the tree. And we're looking now at concept bike lanes to connect the bike trail all the way up to Ojai Avenue. So there'll be enough width there. It'll be the same kind of idea. I mean, to call it a class 2 bike lane where it's driving lane with a bike lane and then the park lane next to it.
And
So-
that's part of the approved paving package?
So that's
It's
being
not,
done
okay.
separately. It's striping, so it's relatively inexpensive. And also we're looking up at Topatopa School area to go, because we're paving Park, you know, a park goes up and it jags over to school and then it becomes errors. So we're looking at bike lanes that would go from, and the Complete Streets group has given a lot of guidance on this too. They've been working at it, and we go from Grand up Park to Ayers to Pleasant, and then by the school, and then come back down. That'd be Park all the way back down Park.
And I think you said there's access to the whole kind of a diagram of how that all is on the
That
city
part,
website, or
that
no?
part there isn't, because we're just developing that concept.
Okay.
So that one should be coming around quickly, and the paving will be occurring before Thanksgiving, so we can stripe it as soon as that paving's done. So whether it's part of that contract or separate, it can be done either way. We'll be looking at pricing on that. It's not a significant cost compared to the paving, but so we might pull it in when they do some striping on the paving.
And this might seem like a weird question, but in the bike lane, are electric scooters going to be allowed on that lane? What's the?
That's a weird question. I'm not touching that one.
I'm
That's
just curious as how
that was
that's
a hot
gonna work.
potato used faster.
Oh, well,
That's what I'm back
I've been
on.
known to do that. Yeah. Thanks.
No, I think I wasn't actually part of that item, but the council just reviewed that, and I think the direction was to ban electric rentable scooters. So it was really meant to be kind of the Lime and Bird approach where you've got to have an app and you do a quick rental on it. But I think they weren't trying to stop the private use of electric scooters.
Or even if it came from a specific location and was returned to a specific location, that also wouldn't be affected. It's the ones where you drop and go.
Right, like if it was a hotel, like if Ojai Valley Inn or even Boku or somebody, I think they were open to that. So I didn't hear the final outcome, so I don't want to misguide you, but roughly not the app approach where they're left around town and not really organized in that fashion, but more the rentable approach is okay.
Yeah.
And individuals. It has to do, I watched the meeting, that's what I'm just recounting, but it has to do whether you drop and go, and you can get it anywhere and people can leave it anywhere. Those are what the ordinance is going after preventing.
But those lanes are going to be shared between scooters, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, that I don't, yeah.
But bicycles, so there's bikes, there's electric bikes, there's scooters, there's electric scooters.
And there's different classes of electric bikes.
100%.
It's a good question, yeah, because the bike path, it was clarified that class 1 and 2 are okay on the bike path, and we even added signs on the bike path that
Yeah.
say that. And it's, I think it has to be self-regulated under 20 miles per hour. It can't assist with power after 20 miles per hour is the definition of 1-2. But yeah, the question about electric scooters, whether they're technically allowed on bike lanes or the bike path, I'm not sure about that. A lot of that goes back to enforcement and so on. I wouldn't think that'd be a hot one to go after. It's pretty darn close to a skateboard or somewhere between that and.
Most of our kids too riding on their scooters, the electric scooters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we would
It's a
want
good-
them in that lane.
It's a good
versus
question, though.
driving.
Yeah.
Right. Is it better there or on a sidewalk? I mean, roads are generally a smoother path, unfortunately, than sidewalks. The way sidewalks are, you'd have to cross driveways and trees pull them up and make it trip hazards. It can be unsafe.
Yeah.
In any case, right?
But that's a good question. And
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good question in the scheme of all that ordinance is coming back.
Yeah.
They're going to discuss again, so if,
Well, and it's-
shoot somebody a question.
And I mean, I have issues with if they're going to do a scooter rental kind of a thing, are people required to wear helmets? Are they not required to wear helmets? I don't know.
If they're
And how are you going to
under
enforce that? And
If it's the helmet law is just applicable if they're under 18, no matter if it's a scooter or bicycle or
yeah,
best practice, but the laws, if they're over 18, that's their choice. I don't think the city, well, maybe they can impose anything. I'm not sure that they would tolerate it.
but I'm wondering if you're going to rent a scooter to somebody under 18, do you have to supply them with a helmet? That's all those kind of things, and how are you going to do that? So
It would seem like for
It's gonna be
liability, it would be
interesting.
like law, like you're saying. But over 18, I remember.
They would have to have a parent sign.
Right.
But it's not, a parent can't sign a waiver for them not to wear a helmet because it's a law. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
they would be required to have one or provide one, I would think.
and just a lot of little boxes to check off.
Yeah, they've been around for a while, but I think the bird lime thing's really kicked up the discussion a lot,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I mean, Thousand Oaks, they specifically permitted it, and then the company fell through, didn't want to do it. But yeah,
So it's proactive what they're doing. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Any
the
other
whole-
bike questions?
Yeah, I just one last one. So this whole program is what, a 3 or 4 year?
The program being the
From-
ATP project?
To get it done, right, from inception to completion is,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to mention that we're coordinating with Caltrans. They're doing an overlay on that same road section. So we're trying to coordinate that and they're also doing a lot of ADA ramps themselves. So we're coordinating with them to do the ramp work, the flat work they often call it, beforehand. And then they do the overlay, and then we do the striping for the bike lanes and all the other work. So we're trying to have it happen all together. So if they have some delays, we might delay ours to match as well.
okay, thanks.
So on the Maricopa Highway part, is that from Ojai Avenue to El Roblar?
And that's the city limit right there, yeah. And we're coordinating with the school district as well on exactly what to do. That seems to be the biggest concern is the morning peak, the left-hand turn lane into the Church Street entrance there can occasionally kick out a little bit at the end. And if it kicked out into single lane, that means people would have to veer around that kick out into the bike lane. So we're looking at how to assure that doesn't happen.
Okay. And then this is maybe a complete streets question, but from that intersection with the El Roblar through the Arbolada, is there any discussion of bike lane in there?
No, the master plan has some ideas on that, the complete street master plan,
Okay.
and there's really not enough width there to do it properly in both directions.
Yeah,
but we
that's
could
really tight through there.
You could do it in the uphill direction only, which they say the higher the speed differential between the bike and the car, the more unsafe it becomes. So uphill, it'd be ideal to have it. On downhill, it wouldn't be as high priority, and so that's.
The higher the speed differential, the safer?
No, the higher speed, the less safe.
That's what I thought.
Right.
Okay.
So what I meant is,
I thought I heard that
right,
wrong.
right. So I might have said it wrong, but as you're going uphill towards the cemetery, you're going really slow,
Yeah.
whatever you might go, and then a car's whipping by. That becomes unsafe.
Yeah,
If you're going
okay.
downhill at good speed together, not so bad.
Thank you for that clarification.
So there's just not enough room from Church Street, I guess, to the cemetery, is that what you're saying? There's no
Right.
easement?
Not enough width.
The Arbolada, isn't the easement much greater than how the roads are actually rocked?
That's another hot potato. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's. But I mean, the typical street width in the Arbolada is 20 foot curb to curb, and that's the old rock curbs that were installed back during the development of those
Are at
areas.
20?
20 foot. So that's really narrow, and it's great for speed calming effect, and really sharing would be the way to go. There was some discussion about trying to widen that, but that's a very hot topic. If you're going to start widening streets to that full right of way, not to mention the impacts to the appearance and aesthetics of the neighborhood would be massive. But wide streets promote speed, so narrow is a great way to keep it calm. So we are even looking at pulling back some of that area. And there's one particular block, from the cemetery over to Sierra that widened up over the years somehow, and we're pulling that back a little bit to try to reduce speeds in that area. Mm-hmm. So I think the first step we're taking there on Montgomery and Etopa will be a good pilot project, because really the basic trick is all the standards throughout the city are 40-foot curb to curb. That you'll see that most commonly. That was made to have 8-foot parking lanes and 12-foot travel lanes. Well, if you take and narrow the parking lane to 7, now each side's left with 13. You should have at least 5 foot for the bike lane next to cars, because the door opening is even questionable at that. So you'll hear people say 4 foot, but that's not a standard allowed because it's too close to the door. So you take 7 and 5, and now you're at 12. It leaves 8 foot for a drive lane. Is very narrow if there's any significant traffic. Most of our city doesn't have that high traffic, so it would work. I think we'll be trying this up at that Park and Ayers area. We'll leave out the center line, and we'll go ahead and have kind of a merged area out there, which can be good for traffic calming. And then people occasionally, sort of worst case scenarios, if you had whatever, you wouldn't tend to have larger vehicles, but if you did, you can drive into the bike lane and so on. So we'll go ahead and pilot that out there. It's pretty tight on Montgomery as well, but that's heavier traffic, so we're concerned we really need a center line there. So.
When you say merge, you mean no center line at all? For
Right.
The vehicle?
Right, no center, which a lot of our residential streets, they don't have center lines.
Makes me think of like Lower Drown.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a
I
very
actually
tight street like
wouldn't
that.
have
Yeah.
either. And it's fairly narrow.
The studies show that center lines increase speed. People feel they've got my lane, I'm going to go as fast as I want. And when they don't have that and people wander a little bit towards the center, you tend to slow and are more careful to pass them. So that's why you'll see a lot of streets as we repave lower volume streets, which most of our streets are, we'll leave out the center line to help reduce speeds. Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that should help us get bike lanes in. So coming up soon to
Good.
a town near you.
Thank you for the report. Anybody else have any other questions? Thank you. That was helpful. I guess our next item is pickleball. So you're
I'll stay for that one.
Perfect.
If you want me to do the introduction, and then for any kind of figures and stuff, we can kind of combine the report together, and Greg can help out, hopefully. Especially since my voice is going, I'm sorry. So the City Council approved unanimously on August 27 to convert the old tennis court that's adjacent to City Hall into a pickleball court. The project will include the development of 3 or 4 pickleball courts. The resurfacing and rehabilitation of the location has been outlined by Public Works and is being funded by the CIP paving project scheduled for this fall. City crews, in cooperation with volunteers, will prepare the area for paving, including pruning, vegetation, trees. That's kind of phase one, actually. That's already been done. Greg's PW staff has already cleaned up the area. And basically, we have an ad hoc committee, and the pickleball advocates are rallying basically volunteers, and again with Public Works to fund. They're rallying to fundraise to complete the work, and that the fundraising items would include striping, which is paint, and then the kits for the nets, and items like that. So on the ad hoc committee, we have different subcommittees, and we've been meeting every 2 weeks. And then maybe Greg can give you, if you're interested in how much money or approximately how much money we may have to, the pickleball advocates again will be fundraising, and where we are on that. Hopefully Greg can enlighten us with.
Quick question,
that.
why is it 3 or 4 and not where you're gonna do 3 or?
Because the contractors, we need to get the contractors or a representative one out there. We've already gotten like 3 bids, but we need to see exactly, depending on which way we're facing, are we putting 3 or 4? It's most likely that we can fit 4. 3 is a little tight, but I'll leave the rest of that question maybe to Greg.
Other way around.
4.
4 is tight, yeah.
4 is tight.
4 is tight, 3 for sure.
4 is tight,
4 is
excuse me. My
And
voice is fine.
I've primarily worked out with the pickleball advocate, otherwise known as Tim Kraut and gang, and so I think I wasn't involved in the ad hoc directly, but did work with Tim and some others to try to look at what's out there. So as I understand from Tim, you can squeeze in 4 courts on that tennis court, and I think that's the approach you're heading for, right? So the city council has agreed to overlay so we'll do some prep out there on roots and any vegetation, which is pretty cleaned up already, but we'll do more before, make sure it's cleaned up. And we might even throw some conduits in if there's any future goals for lighting and so on. And so when the paving is done, roughly by Thanksgiving, so it's not immediate, but coming up along with when you see the work going on around town with all the curb ramps and so on, that's done first, and then the paving comes second. So approximately Thanksgiving. And it all depends on the contractor schedule. We leave flexibility to help our pricing on that. And so they'll come in and do that overlay. And then the pickleball advocates have a lot of flexibility in how quality they want to go. I mean, on the lowest level, you could actually stripe pavement. And we stripe streets all the time, and it works fine. But it's a rougher surface for play. So you can go at, the higher qualities, even concrete, like the Libby tennis courts. But so asphalt is kind of a step down anyhow. And then most people would slurry seal all of that rougher asphalt with a couple coats of slurry. And then you can stripe at that point, and that's a nicer, tighter surface. And then you can also apply paint, like green paint's common or other colors. And that's very expensive. That acrylic colored paint is 5-6-fold price of slurry, and a little trickier to put down properly, but not too bad. So I get the feeling at this, I think that Tim and the advocates are working together on their funding to see how much they go. But at a minimal level, just stripe it the way it is. At a better level, slurry it and tighten it up and get the striping on. And then, of course, at that point, you got to get the poles slotted in the ground and the quality of the netting and so on. And I think the final step is if they rally up funds for a perimeter fence, it's nice not to chase your balls all over the place, right? Yeah. So I think that's the basic features, and I guess Tim's there if you have any questions from him, but how far they expect to go. I think they'd already mentioned they're well into a few $1,000s of rallying money at this point.
I was not there for the 27th meeting, but I did watch it, and the allocation was for $15,000. and, because they had discussed whether it would be 10 or 15. And the allocation that council agreed upon was 15,000. So that will cover the surfacing and possibly beyond, because the surfacing, it's going to be about 10?
Yes.
Good. So, yeah, that was what I heard, and so from there, the rest will be flushed out. We have some costs for netting, we have some approximate costs for the materials for surfacing, and the great piece that is covered is that the pickleball advocates and Tim are willing to do the labor, which would be about $16,000 based on the quotes and bids that we've received thus far, approximating the cost to do this. So we're in really good shape. So I think we're looking to raise, I think, about $7,000 at this point to get to where we need to be to cover all the materials to do the surfacing and the kits for the nets and all of that equipment. So it's great. So it looks like what council did approve was $15,000. And it's going out as part of the paving project, which is already set and out there, so that's great.
Did the 15, was it just for the overlay, or did they say
No.
total funding for
Total funding
as
of
needed?
15,000.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it sounded like the paving overlay was coming in,
It was about 9 or 10,000.
yeah, right in where you thought or better than expected.
Right.
Which is great, and so then they had agreed to add, because they talked about 10 or 15, and the number that they finally had when they took their vote was 15,000, so.
So
Including the
do we have, I'm sorry.
Including
just
the
saying,
cost of the
including the
paving.
cost of the
Yeah,
paving.
so whatever the cost of the paving is
15
beyond
total for the
that, there's
project.
15,000 total budgeted.
So
for
if
the
we're gonna
project.
do it, to your point, the more expensive way, the slurry and everything, do we have a ballpark for what that whole, are we gonna
Tim
get
probably has
there,
it
do you
better.
think?
I think that's the part where
That's the finishing.
Yeah.
where Tim and the volunteers would we could probably cooperate with the city, and that we could we have to get the slurry here. There's a couple of different approaches. The city's looking at buying its own slurry trailer, and if we can get that in place, we could easily bring the slurry over. And then it's fairly easy. If anybody's willing to dirty up their boots,
That's right.
to push it around and get it slurried in place and do those 2 coats. And so that labor would save the cost, and we just provide a couple coats of slurry. And maybe at that point, you go for the striping. I don't know if you're pushing to get a color coat down or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're fundraising for.
So, and how,
The
It just seems to
15,000
me
won't
that-
cover what to go on the grander scale, but they have quite a collaboration of
Right.
efforts to
Right.
do
And
some
that-
private
And that's kind of
funding.
my point, that the fight has been so well joined by everybody that I would think you want to do this right.
yeah.
Right? Do it the best way we can do it, make them last as long as they can last. And I've played tennis on asphalt, and I've played tennis on regular courts, and it's night and day. It's not even close. You want to put the smoother surface down. You want to protect your players as well.
Were you saying rough surface
Yeah.
versus slurry, or are you
Yeah,
saying
no, the
asphalt
slurry's way
times
better.
concrete?
The slurry is a much better surface.
Uh-huh.
It just gives you, people are just going to get beat up if it's just asphalt. It's not going to be pretty. So, I mean, whatever that is, if it takes an extra month to raise the money to do that, it's probably well worth the time. It would be my thought on that. And I would guess we're going to be able to get there money-wise. There's a lot of good vibes going on about the whole pickleball thing. So, I think it's awesome. That's all.
If I can just say, sorry, one thing. We may want to check the minutes from the city council meeting on the 27th, because I believe that one of the council members, Randy, had added the 5,000 for another point, for like striping or something. I know Tim also attended that meeting, so we may want to go back and look at that.
See where it was exactly allocated.
Yeah, where the 5,000 went towards, which project. It was the pickleball project, but it may have gone for the striping, and I cannot confirm that without the minutes for the city council meeting.
And I would think if it meant paint and striping, that would include slurry, that. But yeah, it'd be important to look at that to make sure we have it right.
Correct.
Staff is held pretty tightly on that, yeah,
Yes.
whatever was agreed to.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's hard to jump in. Yeah, because so along with what Patrick's saying, I definitely agree. Like, if it's being done, hopefully we can do it in a way that's going to last a long time. And on that note, that green acrylic paint on top, is that being considered, or is that kind of too expensive? Okay. Mhm.
And there's
Right.
different weights and sizes of sand. So the first application is a number 90, and you mix that with acrylic paint, and you put that down,
Mhm.
and then you weigh the appropriate amount of time, and then you go back and with another layer of acrylic paint with a number 60 pound
Okay.
silica sand.
Mhm.
And that's a finer, smoother, that'll give you the smoother finish that
Right.
we're talking
Yeah.
about. Also, on this overlay, I believe, if I'm not wrong, the assumption was the bid on that particular spot was a smaller rock, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so with that smaller rock, we're gonna have a smoother finish anyways versus what they're gonna put on the street.
Right.
Because what they're gonna use on the street is a larger rock. What they're gonna use out here is a
Yeah.
3/8. So that's gonna be a smaller, smoother surface anyways to begin with. Then a couple of coats of sealer
Mhm.
over it, seal those cracks up, and then we'll see where the money is.
Right.
To see how far that 15,000, once you find out for sure where that 15,000 ends up, and whatever's left, we're gonna pick that up.
Yeah.
Great. And then the other question I had was, as far as fundraising and timing of fundraising, if there's not enough for fencing, can that be done afterwards, or does that have to be done as part of the?
That's something
Anytime.
later.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. That doesn't have to be done right now.
Okay.
No.
Great.
And Tim, while you're there, I had a question just for everybody listening. We had discussed the 3 or the 4. Can you explain, would those be east and west play or north and south play? And how would the court be laid out? I was just curious because I know there was some confusion at our last ad hoc that.
Okay. The measurement out here on this court, typically like you have at the lower tennis courts, they're 60 feet wide by 120 down here in Libby. This court out here is 52 feet wide by 118. So
Okay.
we're crunched down a little bit. The way I laid it out, north and south, just like the Libby courts are, because
Okay.
you don't want to look at the sun,
Right.
morning or afternoon, it's north and south.
Okay.
So if we divide that court in two, we're looking at 59 feet right in the center.
Okay.
2 on each side, north and south.
Great.
I figured putting 2 courts on each side of that center divider, and there'll be 3 to 4 feet on each side of the court on the sides. In between each court, there'll be 5 feet in
That's great.
between each court in the center. That's kind of the way I had figured it out, laying it out.
That's great.
I don't know.
I'm glad to hear that they're laid out north and south because there was some confusion and thank you for clarifying.
Well,
That's really
actually-
nice that we can
actually,
get
the
4
court
courts.
now, the original court,
Mhm.
that's the way it's laid out,
Right.
is north and south.
For whatever reason, there was just some
yes.
discussion about it and they were not sure and it didn't, I just want to clarify
and
because that
one of
didn't
the-
seem fair to play
Right.
east and west. We were wondering, that didn't make sense to us, so.
Well, the 2 courts you're considering up in Sarasota, aren't those north and south?
Yes,
Um,
they are, because I think there was even some discussion
Yeah, we had
about
a
that,
lot
but
of
they
Long
are north and
discussion over
south,
it.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't our first
You
choice,
wouldn't
but-
wanna do it east and west up there in Sarasota
Mm-mm.
with that afternoon west.
Right.
I think we were considering going east-west because of if we were going one court to dodge some issues up there, we were going to go east-west, but we.
No, we.
Now-
I
we-
think it is east-west.
It is
On
east-west.
this picture in here, it's east and
It's
west.
east-west because that was.
I think the problem is the concept was east-west, but the design, the prefer that fits.
The
Yeah.
play, you're saying the play goes east to west on the futsal
Yeah.
courts?
Yeah.
That's probably a good one to bring back, because the way they
it is
designed to
east-west.
fit best with 2 courts was north-south, and it's ideal for the issue with the sun as well.
It actually was, so the problem with the north-south was that it came too far west into the softball fields, and by doing the 2 courts east-west, it didn't encroach on the outfield of the softball fields as much, or baseball fields.
We should, I know that
For another
the
day,
Crabtree
yeah.
group did a design on that, and I was looking at it, it was north-south, so I don't know where the confusion occurred, but I should bring that back to make sure we have it, because
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
about ready to roll on that, yeah.
There was some active discussion about the direction and.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was decided east-west, and I looked at the Crabtree plan, was north-south, which I think we all looked at, and
I
okay.
think the measurements on that were not accurate on the Crabtree plan as
Okay.
part of the original master plan. So when we tried to go fit that into the actual space, it didn't fit.
Okay. All right, that's good, I'll look at that as well, because I'm right in the middle of
Great.
requesting some monies from the Ojai Civic Association, right? So
Yeah, I was going to ask for a quick update on that. So that, do you
yes,
have a timetable?
I was trying to get out early this week till I got steamrolled on a few different things and trying to get back at it.
But approximately when do you have it on your schedule, do you think, for this year?
To submit it, I was trying to get it submitted. When I hear back from
Okay.
Civic Association, I hope that they're supportive, and if they are, and we look at this design issue,
We figure out which
Just a
direction.
minor issue.
and I
Just
like
have one going each way.
so that would really kick it in towards, we'd be lucky to get these issues resolved in a couple of months,
Okay.
and then get it out to bids. So we're kind of heading for midwinter to get it out for construction. I hope we have a nice wet winter, so we might take a look at that if it is wet to delay
push
it
it
until
out,
the rain
yeah.
season's over. Hmm.
Okay, so, but somewhere by summerish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We might go for
That'll work for
wintertime.
me.
We might talk to contractors and get it bid and give full flexibility. And, I think we can be careful with the construction depending how the rainy season is. So if
Okay.
it's a good wet one, we might wait. But yeah, for sure in the spring it'll be done.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you. Other pickleball questions, comments? I think one of the things that at some point we need, and maybe Greg can help us with this, or maybe our pickleball advocates can help, is we need something like a site plan for that.
Yeah.
We need on paper with measurements, so
helpful.
we're very clear on the, how it fits and what's going on at that site. I don't know if that's something you guys could help put together.
I think that the guy who knows this site intricately is sitting in the audience out here.
Okay.
So I think, like Tim is just, he's got these numbers off the cuff, I think. It's the 52 by 118 north-south direction locked in that location with that split with those gaps he's mentioned. And maybe you're saying someone's sketching that in a piece of
Yeah,
paper.
or just
and
drawing
saying-
it up so that we have something that we're working with, so everyone's looking at the same thing and we're all on the same page. Because even if Tim puts it together, if you give it your blessing, that would be the next step.
I can do that.
That'd be great. So that we
Maybe,
just,
maybe, Tim, you could throw that our way and we could just look at it and I can have, and just make sure we're all good. And by the way, when you mentioned fencing too, and I'm sure you know this, but the old perimeter wall around there has old fence post holes that were, torched off at the surface. So those might be a way to, I don't know if they can retrofit into it or core back into it or something like that, yeah.
Commissioner Firestone.
Right, yep, that's not not
Commissioner
number one
Firestone
priority.
has a comment.
Right. Just a question about fundraising and if, how big an effort is the fundraising?
We have an active subcommittee of the ad hoc committee working on that, both some actual fundraising events, looking at grant writing and grant funding, and a lot of what we're working on, trying to get the budget all fleshed out, which is work done, work needs to be done, is have those documents together so when we go for grants, we can show the in-kind and the city's participation
Great.
and
Actual
the
costs.
actual cost of what's already happened.
Great.
Just a suggestion. What about the possibility of, and this is kind of a off-the-wall thing, but naming rights for a court? If somebody donates X amount of money, they get to put their name on the court. Like this is the Sage Ittner Court, or this
Well,
is
if
the
that policy came back that we recommended to the next committee, we could probably do that, right? For those of
fundraising,
you
there shouldn't
listening.
be any reason why you couldn't do that.
Mhm.
Or just, it's, you have court 1, court 2, court 3, court 4.
That's
It's
exactly
the Tim
what
Crown
we
Court, it's
addressed
the
in
Pat
that
Murphy
policy.
Court, it's the
And I-
Firestone Court, whatever court it is, and if you give us $5,000, you get to name the court after you.
I am
Sounds like you just
happy-
solved the whole problem right there.
I'm happy to take that back to the committee
Yeah.
Yeah.
as part
I
of
mean,
our
I
ad
think
hoc
that's-
committee work.
People are,
And
they like
maybe,
stuff named after
put
them.
on our next agenda, can we get an update on the naming committee, where we're at?
The
in that?
policy as a future,
Policy
yeah.
that would be nice to, we worked really hard on that, and we could actually use it for this exact type of situation.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Ryan kind of answered your question too. I've been talking to my people, and I've already told them they're gonna have to get off their wallets.
Great. All right.
I've been putting the bug in their ear.
Okay.
For those of you who haven't been part of the ad hoc process, I think it's a real testament to our community. There has been, despite the contention that we saw at several of our commission meetings, the community, both from tennis and pickleball and the citizens, have really come together, and it's been a really pleasure to be a part of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a quick reminder too, when you think of plaques and so on, that the issue, this being a landmarked property, is just a little extra hump. I mean, the council addressed that at the meeting last time, by allowing the project to go ahead, but just maybe not quick as put a plaque on that wall. It'll have to go through possibly another hoop, Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Just an idea.
Good feedback.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Still can do it. It just has to be an old plaque.
Throwing it against the wall.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks.
the update.
Thanks, Greg.
Look
All
forward
right.
to hearing about the sport courts.
Yeah, we'll get on it, right.
Thank you. Okay. We are on to discussion of the joint meeting, and thank you to Allison and Ryan for working on this, getting the draft together. So this is for our October 8th joint meeting with City Council that's coming up.
That's a Tuesday, right?
I better put that on my calendar.
Yes, it
right
is.
now.
And it's 6 o'clock.
October 8th.
Mm-hmm.
All right, would you like me
You
to
wanna run
take
it?
it away?
Yeah, go
Absolutely.
for it.
So I will go through the slideshow with you guys and read everything, and also if you want to stop me as we go through and make comments, you can, or you can make a note and we can go through comments at the end. But I'm definitely open to any feedback, and especially when we get to the end, discussion items. I only have one discussion item listed based off of the feedback from watching the last meeting. So we'll definitely want to revisit that as well. But here we go. So starting off just with the structure, it's structured same as last year with parks and program updates first, and then discussion items at the end, just to kind of review for them our year. So we have our goodbyes to Mr. Kotsis, and our hello to our new recreation manager and our 2 new commissioners that have joined since last year. And then parks and program updates. So we have our 6th annual open house. You can see a lovely picture of our commission table there, and getting some kid excited about our upcoming multi-sport courts. And then Ojai Day, which actually I don't think this slide has ever been in here before, but you guys were requested to do Ojai Day. So we have some great pictures. A volunteer took professional pictures last year and gave them to us, which is great. And then aquatics. Noted on here, aquatics was at Villanova Pool this year. We ran 6 weeks of swim lessons, and we had 4 Saturdays of public swim. We were unable to offer our usual weekday public swim at Nordhoff due to facility availability.
Unavailability.
Was this the first year that we offered privates?
It was not, no.
Last
this-
year was.
This,
No, I
it's our
think
3rd or
so.
4th, actually.
Okay,
We've
all
been
right,
offering them
okay.
for a little while.
Now, do we, and just because I'm sure this question is going to come up in the meeting, are we going to be able to use the Nordhoff pool this summer?
We have not gotten that guarantee, but that is the idea.
Okay.
I can try and contact Nordhoff before that meeting to see if they have an idea. I don't know how the construction went over this summer, and if they're anticipating it being open next summer. But when I talked to them before the summer, the idea was that it would just be this year that it would be
Okay.
unavailable.
And are those
Thank you.
swim lessons normally at Nordhoff, or are they always at Villanova?
It's kind of changed every year for the past few years, but last year it was swim lessons in the morning at Villanova and public swim in the afternoon at Nordhoff. And that's because Villanova is actually much, it's preferred for swim lessons just because the way the pool is set up. They have like a much bigger shallow end.
Yeah.
So it works out pretty well doing it that way. And then I guess I don't need to be doing this. Summer camp, some new photos of camp this year. Our camp is offered Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., ages 5 to 13. We averaged 49 participants this year per day, which is down a bit from last year. I believe last year was 51. So it felt bigger, but apparently we shrunk on average, which, 2 kids makes all the difference. But and it is one of the largest programs for us at the Recreation Department.
Largest as in numbers or revenue?
Both. Yep. And then our parent night out movie nights, we do 1 per month. Low-class night of fun for children and parents. We're averaging this year 28 per event. And those events have, I don't know if you guys will notice, but that those numbers have dipped off a little bit. Not totally sure why, but we are continuing to promote them and encourage them. And that's our flyer for all of our upcoming movies. After school program, as you guys are aware, we ran it at Topa Topa last school year, but this year the school has taken it over, so we are no longer running that program, but we still have cute pictures of kids having fun last year. Our gymnastics program, featuring one of our commissioner's hands down there. I'm not sure if you can pick them out, but classes for 18 months to 18 years. It's offered year-round. It has over 200 participants and over 200 competing team members.
20.
Or sorry, thank you, over 20. It's been a long day.
That would be insane.
The fiscal year 19 CIP had $10,000 allocated for new gymnastics equipment, and those funds were used to purchase a new floor that they're out there bouncing around on every day. The tennis program, both youth and adult classes, is offered year-round. Youth classes average 60 students per session, and adult classes run on a drop-in basis. Old programs and new programs. This is something that Ryan added last year that I think is great. So old programs that are no longer offered, the Topa Topa After School program, our Youth Flag Football League, and then Public Swim this year only. New programs that we're offering this year. For youth, we did a singing camp for the first time this year. Flag Football Clinic. So you'll see we went from a league to a clinic. A parent-child music class and skateboarding.
What's the parent-child music class? How does that work?
It's like a partner participation early childhood development music class.
Okay.
Yeah. The information is in our activity guide if you want to read all about it.
I have that. I got that in the mail.
And then adult, we've added yoga and ghost tours event. Again, both of those are in our activity guide. Then actually two other programs that I just realized today I need to add to the old programs is a jewelry making camp and our swim camp. We also did not offer this year. Patient numbers, now we're getting into the charts. So you can see for the past few years we've had our participation numbers split. So the blue is a majority of our programs, the red is just after school registration because that represents such a huge portion because those are individual daily registration. So that's why it's such a huge chunk, and it dipped down from 2017 to 2018 because that's when we stopped offering it at Miners Oaks. But you can see Topa was well over half of that registration. And if you're looking at the blue, you can see that we're just a little bit above where we were last year for those blue marks.
Allison,
Yeah.
a couple thoughts on this slide.
Yeah, please.
So, well, first of all, the blue being labeled total, I don't think is right? Because
Oh, accurate. Okay.
the other thing is, like, we know that these numbers, like a participant could be a drop-in for a camp, or it could be like a whole week of camp, things like that. So
Yeah, in the past we've tried to detail out what that means, and it got complicated. So last year you guys had requested to just simplify it to this.
Right. But I guess my point is that maybe like it's not even worth showing this if it's not.
I find this to be a very
useful.
confusing slide.
Yeah. I mean, I think just having something qualitative about like if we think participation has gone up or it's about the same, like
Right.
a couple comments like that would probably be more informative than this. And then just having a bullet to say like we did after school, and we don't anymore, something like that. I think
Okay.
would simplify this.
So not as much information as far as like past years, but just kind of give.
I think it's more that the numbers are unclear what they mean. So it's someone who signed up for a week or a whole session of a course represents one, or if they dropped in, it represents one. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, this does not include drop-in numbers. This is just registered.
But after
yeah.
school is drop-in. Those after-school programs look so huge
Right.
because instead of signing up for a session,
Right.
they could come for a
They
day.
just show up.
We could just eliminate the red, and that would mean that there was no drop, and so we could just say that this is all activity registration,
Okay.
not drop-ins.
More accurate,
If that
especially
makes
since we
more
don't-
sense.
We don't have any after-school programs at any of the schools anymore, right?
Correct.
So it's kind
So
of
next year, the red's gonna
it's
be
gonna
eliminated
a-
anyway.
Right.
So we
I
could
think
just
that
do
might
that.
just that might be better, just to show I think it's helpful to see,
Yeah.
you know, the rise in the fall, and we've been doing so well, 16, 17, 18. So those blue figures would stay where they are, you would just
Yeah.
eliminate the red.
Exactly.
And the blue doesn't include any of the after-school participation registration, right?
Correct.
I think that's a nice chart
I
to
still
see.
think, and something at the bottom though that speaks to this is not,
But class registrations,
Yeah,
not including
represents total.
drop-in.
well,
some
and the
kind of
fact that
verbiage.
the same person could be represented, if you're doing tennis and you do tennis all year long, it's not unique
Right.
registrations, or, you know, I don't know, I'm struggling with.
Yeah,
I
it's-
can try and come up with some verbiage that would make sense.
So I think, I mean, if we're keeping the chart in, and let's say we're just keeping the blue,
Uh-huh.
does it tell the real story is the question. So like from 2016 to 2017, sorry, to 2018, has there been a slight decrease in participation at the rec department? 'Cause that's what this graph says.
Overall, across, yeah, there's been a slight decrease in registration across the board.
No. So in your opinion, has there been a slight decrease in participation at the rec department in the past 3 years?
I honestly couldn't say.
Okay.
If it is, it's very slight.
So that's my point,
Chart
is that this number
represents-
says something very specific. Like this chart says something very specific, right? And if we don't know if that's true, like, that's a good reason not to have the chart.
I think you're opening yourself up to get bogged down for 20 minutes trying to figure this out, and
Yeah.
I'd just eliminate it. In my opinion.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we gain from it, and it can bog the whole thing down for a while. And we remember last year how easy it was to get bogged down.
Yes.
We could include, we could highlight different programs, if it was sports that has an increased attendance, or the classes have, and we don't necessarily have to talk about negatives of 10 kids less on average for the summer, but we could do paragraphs instead and then just highlight the different areas, and then where we're trying to build.
That sounds good, if you always want to, like a bullet point for, okay.
Yeah. And
I will say that I think a majority of those bullets are going to be slightly decreased. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that is accurate.
okay, yeah. That would probably be more informative, and I think it's really just like the past few years that we'd be interested in. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think we have to look back 15 years.
I think 3 years is plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you prefer to do that like on the program slides that we already have, to include that information on those slides? Or would you prefer to have like their own slides talking about specific programs?
Or could this be a slide about participation?
We could just do one slide on participation and then just do it in paragraph form. And if we decide to do it, add a couple bullet points if it doesn't confuse the matter, and keeping in mind that it's highlights, then I think they'd get a good idea of.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
good.
I
That
think
sounds
what the
good.
city council wants to know is how's participation going and what are the expenses compared to the cost? That's all they really want to know.
Yeah.
And that can be done, I think, a lot more concisely than this.
Right.
All right, well then, yeah, Renee and I can work together to figure that out.
So for instance,
So-
my first question is, why is the cost recovery rate dropped?
Staffing cost.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this slide shows our revenue and expense, and our expense over revenue. So the red line, as you can see, is our expense from 2012 to this year, or 2019 that just recapped is estimated as of now. And I believe it will still technically be estimated when we get to that meeting.
Yeah.
And then the blue line is our revenue, and the green line is our expense over revenue. So that is essentially what we are subsidized by the city. So you can see in the fiscal year 18, our cost recovery rate was 57%, and in 19 we dropped to 56%. And that would
And I would love to move away from subsidized to our general fund allocation.
general fund
It's not a
allocation.
subsidy. This is tax dollars that were allocated
Right.
to go toward Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Just as a,
And I'd like to see the percentage numbers on that. I think that's probably a more useful number for the council, is like how much is the city spending on
dollar-wise, you're saying, instead of percentage?
As a general fund.
So you want to flip it to, so instead of,
So the graph is good. I think, so just like you have like a couple of numbers at the bottom for cost recovery rate, just like saying what the numbers are maybe for 18 and 19 or 17, 18, 19 on that green line.
the total number of how much that allocation
And
is.
They had to allocate.
Right.
They
So
cut the difference.
it's basically like the 3 data points on the green line, showing what, like printing the number right above those points or something.
General fund allocations for just like the past few years.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. That'll be helpful.
It's not a subsidy.
General
It's
fund,
not.
general
That's
fund
where-
allocations, that's what we're calling?
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
general fund allocation.
Okay,
Been working on
absolutely.
this, not forget that. I've been working on this for years and I haven't gotten anywhere, so.
I'll start using it, we'll see what happens. Okay, any other feedback on this slide?
No, I think that's good. Yeah. Anybody else?
So, a question I have, aside from this annual meeting, is there additional time that the council spends with recreation staff?
Council directly, not generally, it's,
Okay.
but staff coordinates with the city manager's office. and
Right.
The city manager.
So as far as a joint meeting, it's not only our commission's joint meeting, but it's also the recreation department's. My reason for asking this is that some of this information, I mean, given that we only have an hour and we see what happens is we inevitably don't have much time for discussion. Like if some of this we don't need to go over because there's some other time that you all spend with the council, we could skip it, but it sounds like there isn't.
And
Well-
historic, I mean.
I would say,
recently,
I would say this, we're a general manager type city organization, and so it isn't set up so that staff is directly interfacing with council, but the city manager the interface is going on repeatedly about all these
Right.
discussions, so it's traveling through those channels.
Yeah.
Right.
At the city, we have a weekly city manager meeting, and we discuss a lot of budgetary items and programs and how things tie together with different departments. And so we're communicating on that end. We do have, with a couple of city council members, they do check in with us and once in a while. And I mean, I've only been here for 8 weeks, and I have I've been approached for a couple of them. Come to my office and we just talk and how's it going? And yeah.
Right.
So, but definitely a direct line with the city manager, and I think we'll be doing more of that.
Okay. So, like, how important is it that we go over revenue and expenses at our joint meeting, for example?
And that's sort of my question is, if the job of this commission is to make recommendations to the council about what to pursue and what not to pursue, the numbers have nothing to do with us.
I agree.
Right.
I'm happy to pull this. And
Yeah, I think we should focus on the programs that we've recommended, the programs that we're going to be recommending possibly, and what we did in the last year that went well or didn't go well, whatever that happens to be, and get the numbers we're going to get bogged down on, and it's going to kill us.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I think that I can help with maybe a program. If we're eliminating a couple of slides with revenues and expenses, and we're concentrating on programs, it would be good to add a page on what our goals are, what the department goals are, where we see next summer is going to go, how many camps, where the ideas are, and that would be exciting to hear revenue generating ideas and changes maybe that we may make to current programs, and to talk about how we may be going towards independent contractors more, because it's more stable. So there's a lot of things to put in there, and not really detailed out, but just really to highlight just goals to get people excited about this. Really is, we're not making things up. This really is where we plan on moving. And because we have all the way until next summer to discuss plans that Allison and I have already discussed. And
that sounds fine to me. The only thing is, this is our last meeting before our presentation at that meeting. So to have a lot of stuff pop up that we haven't discussed here or
Yeah.
haven't thought about.
What we could do is just send, if we're going to take out the graphs and the expenses and everything, we could just send that page to you. We could email it to you.
And I think that's actually what you're talking about. I think is a really good idea. Eliminate these two and just put, this is what the rec's shooting for, for the rest of 2019, and moving into 2020, the next, I don't know what you call that year, 12 months window, whatever it is. And just say, these are the spots we're trying to get to, move more independent contractors, increase the summer program, whatever it is. Maybe there's 5 or 6
As
bullet
long as
points.
we're putting that as we would like to discuss, because we haven't discussed that as a commission.
No,
I just want to be really clear on, that we're not putting out, we're going to do this to our
No, they're suggestions.
council.
Right.
But these are possible discussion points.
It could also be framed as, like managers'
Yes.
goals or something like that. So that
Right,
it's-
that's,
if it
We
isn't-
just-
that's where it would most likely,
Yeah.
it would be more in the direction of that, because every program, when we add a program, we're not going to commission with every single program that we're adding. So you are correct that we could word it like that, these are the recreation department staff recommendations.
yeah.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I don't think we'd necessarily have any power to recommend what programs.
Well,
they
we
do or
definitely
don't.
have historically recommended programs
Yeah.
and made suggestions on different
No,
populations
but
that
my
we
point
wanted
is,
to
she doesn't
serve.
have to run them through us to.
But it's a joint council commission meeting. So just to be clear, what we're putting out there as the commission is going to appear that this is what we're saying we want to work on. So we just need to have real clarity
Language
on
is-
what's coming from the commission. Because
Agree with that.
if this list comes out and they ask questions of me and we haven't had a discussion on it, what's my answer? My answer is we're looking forward to discussing that. I just want to be clear that we're not confusing
Yeah,
and
the
getting
wording
ahead
of
of
it's going to
ourselves.
be important.
Yeah, and that we're more focusing on things that we have discussed or that has come up as part of our discussion that we want to
Yeah,
discuss.
and I think Renee's idea of emailing us the page and letting all the commissioners look at it, we can each put notes down or do whatever we need to do if we don't like the way something's worded. That's,
I'm not
I don't
sure
know
how
if
that works
that's
for the Brown Act.
Brown Act.
If
That's
if
a
it's
problem.
just, if it's from commissioner to you and nothing beyond that, then it's fine.
Well,
But any
if-
discussion beyond that
No,
shares
that's not
is-
true, because it turns into a serial meeting really quickly. If Renee compiles those thoughts and passes them on to another commissioner, that's the whole
can't do
intent.
that.
You cannot
Yeah.
do that. But what you could do is you could work with, one commissioner to, and it sounds like you're kind of the go-to person. That is not, not a problem if we're comfortable, if everyone else is comfortable.
And you will technically see this one more time
Right.
before you go. We won't have a whole lot of time to make edits, but you
That's
will
true. We
at
have
least see it.
one
So
more
if,
meeting.
if,
Okay.
if Sage, if you want to work directly with Renee,
Yeah, no, I'm-
on like that slide, and then we can show it to everyone.
Because we do have the one more to quickly do changes. Okay, that sounds
Right,
good.
and we can show the one slide, or
Yeah, no,
I can do a draft
comfortable
with
with
you or
that.
something, and then we can show it for the next, just the one slide.
Okay,
That's
perfect. So
sufficient.
I am eliminating this slide. Wonderful. All right, that just means I don't have to do all those numbers next year, right?
You never know.
Bring back the graphs.
Yay, just never know.
Speaking of graphs, capital improvement plan. Yay!
Really tiny.
I don't know if you guys still want this, but we did have it last year, so I did update it, and I put it in here for you guys. This is our current CIP, which you guys reviewed, I believe, last meeting or 2 meetings ago. So the question is, do you want it in there? Do you want it in there but looking different? If you have any thoughts on that. That it is something that you could get easily bogged down with. So.
yeah, I'm not sure what this gains us.
I like to have it in there because it's reminding them about what are important for our goals specifically. And if there are questions from council, that's a time that we can field them about our priorities and the projects that we have.
That's exactly what I see here, is a whole lot of questions about things that aren't necessarily relevant, like what color to make the pickleball courts, things like that. That's where we end up waffling
Yeah, we
in
lose
these
our
meetings.
time. Mhm.
Well, what are we saving the time for?
Well,
This
we need-
seems like
we
an
need
important,
dis-
we
we
need
need
this seems like an
discussion.
important discussion, the
Last year, we
projects that are
really didn't
important
have
to
enough
us.
time to have any discussion.
So
Right.
how can we
Presentation was so long.
can we allocate a specific amount of time for the topics on this? So that, because I've been to 2 of these meetings, and both of the meetings we waffled on about this
Well,
exact
Well, we are pulling out the numbers, which sometimes
Well,
gets us
that
waylaid.
helps.
And we're shortening it up, so,
If we made this the last page, then we're gonna know exactly how much time we have to discuss.
Good idea.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
good.
that is-
Reformat the layout.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
I think that
Okay.
sounds good.
Double-sided 11 by
So,
17.
so we want to have, so we should be adding a slide, because it's now officially approved for pickleball.
Come on.
It's
So
on
we need a
here.
pickleball slide.
It is there, we're gonna get there.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe
Well, no, I'm
maybe I
just-
should just go through these last ones fast, and then you guys can figure out how you wanna order them.
Where is the pickleball slide going? Sorry.
It's 22. It's down there.
Okay,
It's 22 and 23.
Okay, so,
Oh,
go ahead.
on 17, just, I think we could make it a little more readable by like shading slightly every other line or something like that.
That's a good idea.
Yep,
Can I ask a silly question?
absolutely.
What does B mean?
Oh, A or B meaning top priority or secondary.
Okay, and then what's the
And
difference?
that's actually a great question.
And it's a good question. And actually, did we do this year or are those last year's A's and B's?
This I pulled directly from Greg's CIP, so,
Okay, so it's last time he met with us.
or last time he worked on made changes to the document.
Okay.
I could eliminate that column if you'd prefer, if it just is too confusing.
Unless we're clear that it's what we want to represent, we just need to.
Yeah, so A, you have the multi-sport courts. B, you have field 1 light poles, gymnastics equipment, which is done. Libby Park, timber replacement, and the sewer pump line.
So we need to update that to say
Zero
done
impact.
then? On that? Is that what you're saying?
I think we
Yeah,
could
so,
get rid of it.
yeah.
I think this is old.
Yeah.
We could get rid of
I
it.
agree.
I think this is old information.
Well, that was gonna be one
I
of the
think
things.
I think maybe just that column hadn't been getting updated.
Even with newer information, it just seems, it's probably too much.
Okay.
That's more of like
So-
a Greg Grant kind of,
So
Gotcha, and
instead, it should be the CIP projects we're working on this year?
for this section?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
I think so.
highlighting
And then
those-
this table can go at
Oh,
the back.
at the back, and then we
After
can
s-
look for it if we want to refer to it.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm good with that. So then that means that the CIP projects are the multi-sport courts, the Libby Park restrooms, and the pickleball.
Yeah. Those are the ones we want to talk about.
This is old. This is not ours either. Remember how there's two CIPs?
Yeah.
There's our CIP and Greg's CIP, and the one we work off of is typically the one that we keep.
Why is there two?
Because
Seems
we
Because,
can't,
because,
we can't add.
because we can't change the
Yes.
official one.
Mhm.
Ah,
So we've done that to represent our goals and what we're trying to get done, because it's not always in line, and plus we can plan a little farther out sometimes.
so if we have this meeting every year, which we do, it's just once a year or twice a year?
Once a year.
Once a year. Why not just focus on 18, 19, 19, 20? And then all the other stuff that's 3 and 4 years out is gonna all change in the next year anyway. So why are we bogged down with all those numbers going to 23, 24 when,
I think for the purposes of this, for what we're doing here, we absolutely don't need all this.
yeah.
Um,
I just think we need to shorten our window. This is what the next year looks like for us. This is what our goal is as a commission. This is what we think's the most important and what we're gonna be working on. Nobody cares, I think, at this point, well, they care, but what's gonna happen in 22, 23? It's too far away.
I think this is a time where they do kind of look at that, and it does help to tee it up so that it keeps it on people's radar, from my perspective. But we certainly don't need 16, 17,
Yeah, agreed.
and 17, 18.
Yeah.
18, 19, yes. The reason that's in there for usually is because we're looking at total project costs.
Right.
And some of these span multiple years, and what was spent where, and how much was spent, and what's left over. But again, this is back to more information than we need.
And 18, 19 would actually be the actuals, right? We have that, don't we? Not projected?
I don't know if they're actual yet, but it's done.
Yeah, I don't know that they're technically actuals, because they're still closing out the fiscal year.
But you're right, the year is closed.
It just seems to me that anything from 21 on is monopoly money. I mean, who knows how it's gonna get moved around between now and then, and why don't we deal with that as we get closer to that.
Okay, well, I think we're, go ahead.
I like having it in because it kind of shows what's on the radar. I mean, even if we put it like lighter font or something, so
Yeah.
it's not emphasized.
Yeah,
It's
I
good to
just
have
think
it in there.
if we can focus on the 2-year period, right, 18 to 20.
Or highlight the 2-year period.
Yeah, I
but
like
that.
keep
That's a better word,
Because the
Sage.
thing is, they
Yeah.
don't know what we're thinking about this far
Right.
out, because they're not seeing it. And so I just like to present that over and over so that, oh yeah, that playground's on there. That is something,
Yeah.
we gotta look for money for that,
And if they have questions about it, we can answer those. But it's,
in that scope of.
yeah,
it's the
no, I
years
like
out.
that
Okay,
idea,
so-
Sage, a lot.
So we're gonna
So
get rid of,
I'm gonna get rid of the first 3 columns, and then I'm gonna highlight 1819 and 1920
mhm.
and 2021, or no?
keep all of that in there through.
Yeah,
20
keep it, but do you just want just the 2 years highlighted?
Yeah,
The 6,
I think so.
from here through 6 years.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah,
And-
I like that plan
And then do you
better.
still wanna move it to the end?
I think that's really smart.
Yes, I think we have, yes, I think the end of the CIP section. But again, I think we go to active, CIP projects for this fiscal year. That's the multi-sport courts, the Libby restrooms, and pickleball. And so I like how the next page is.
Well, and pickleball needs to be included on here because
It needs to
it's
be moved
not.
forward.
Yeah, so
Yes,
it's,
and
so it's
on-
in the
yeah.
wrong order for how you're wanting to talk
But
about
she's
it.
right.
I see that.
It's also
Oh,
not listed on the CIP.
at all. Maybe it could replace
Oh,
water.
yeah.
Oh,
Because
good
that's
call.
Greg's. Ours got it added, but this one doesn't have it.
Yeah, so I'll ask Greg if he has it in his new document.
Would you pull ours and compare them?
Yeah, I did that. I think pickleball's just been happening so fast that it might not have been on his a month ago when I checked it, so.
But would you just compare to ours just one more time to make sure we're not missing anything?
Yes.
And then you were going to mark the gymnastic floor, I think you said, right? Wasn't that done?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna take out those columns, so I'll
Okay.
take out the projects that,
Okay.
oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the next, you're gonna leave 18, 19?
Yes, but I'm gonna take out the column that says that it's, priority B, so
No, I'm saying that
It's
it's done,
completed.
it's completed.
everything in 1819 is.
We did all 3 of those projects.
No, we didn't remodel the restrooms, so
Well,
that
but,
money
well,
is
but
there.
the money was, I believe, for planning stage, for design.
But to what you're saying is the gymnastics equipment is done, complete.
So would you like to take it off the list?
No, I think that we just put done next to it.
She was saying, though, she was gonna eliminate that column.
We
No,
could
18, 19, 19, 20 is going to stay.
No, the priority column. So where
Oh.
would you
Yeah, so-
reference?
Right.
So there's nowhere to
Do you
put
want to
done.
put right next to it in parentheses complete?
Yeah, that, like by the
That'll-
title.
Mhm.
I just think that might be helpful.
Okay.
So that they
And
know
then
it's complete.
refresh my memory on the water park element. Why do we have it if we, I mean, it's obviously projected through, is it just to keep on the radar for
Mhm.
2020, 25, 24, 25 and beyond?
I believe that's,
Yeah.
yes.
And where is that at?
There's no, on this list, there's nothing allocated.
No, I mean,
to it.
where is it supposed to be? Is that at Sarasota
At
Park?
Sarasota.
What is that?
Sarasota.
I mean, because anybody looking at it, I'm not sure that they know what
You
that
know,
means.
I
so-
can
just tab
highlight,
those
because
in.
it does show on
Because
here.
Everything under
I
here
can
is
make it more
Sarasota.
clear.
Oh,
That's actually a header right there for Sarasota.
It is interesting that that's the only
Where?
thing on here
Oh,
that
I
has
see.
no
Then
money
highlight that.
allocated.
Well, Libby Park doesn't either.
Well, but that's a whole,
Yeah.
that's the theme.
Well,
It's the park
Can
thing.
you,
but-
Can we change the
heading where it says Sarasota Park, and then everything underneath? I didn't catch that. It didn't,
I'll restructure that so
Yeah.
that makes more
The-
sense.
maybe
There-
center Sarasota Park or something, so it's kind of, so it makes it look like everything under there that's
Yeah.
more of a heading. I see now, I'm looking, at Libby Park, Libby Bowl.
It's also not totally accurate, because
Okay.
the order isn't accurate, but I will restructure it so it makes sense, Suzie.
Ryan, did you have something to say?
Yeah, it seems like also not everything from the Sarasota Park master plan is identified in here, so it is kind of weird to have the water park element.
I don't see a need to have it in there, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's on the official CIP is the reason that it's on,
Oh, I see.
on here. But I can eliminate it if you guys would like from here.
I mean, maybe just a little note that says like additional features of the master plan haven't been
Like at
put in the
asterisk.
CIP yet, yeah. Then we don't have to spell them all out, we can just say that there are additional.
Right, or I
features.
could just eliminate, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No, I think, so you've got the idea though that where it says Libby Park, you'll take out the dashes that, through that column? So that it.
So that it's more of a
it doesn't
header.
look like,
Right,
yeah,
yes.
okay. And then
To
tab in
me,
the ones
looking
below.
at it,
Yeah, I will restructure it so it's
Thank
clear
you.
which projects are for which locations.
And we are taking off the water
Yep.
feature?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will add in pickleball.
Do you still want a line that basically says additional items for, do you want an asterisk by Sarasota Park to put below that there are additional planned projects that are not on this list at this, at this point?
Yeah, I would like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an asterisk next to Sarasota Park and then below the explanation of.
Well, why aren't they on here? I don't understand what
Because
you're
there are
saying.
many, many, many that aren't listed on here that are part of the master plan.
Oh.
Like the path around the park,
But
the
money
teen
hasn't been
playground.
Money hasn't-
allocated for
is
that.
it?
So that's why I don't know if they're,
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
that's just
Yeah.
explaining that there are more projects from that
Yeah,
that
and
aren't here yet.
so remove water park element
Yeah.
and then reference, so it would be like water park element, the path, those larger things won't be included, but they'll be identified so they'll know there's others as a reminder.
Or just an asterisk that says the other Sarasota master plan projects are not on the.
Included.
Included.
Right, okay,
Just keeping everybody aware.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're on to the multi-sport courts at Sarasota.
Wait, what page are we on now then?
That's 18.
Okay, oh, backside.
Yes.
and it is important that I think maybe before we present this, that we figure out what direction the courts are going. 'Cause on
She
here,
seems
they're
pretty
going east and
certain
west.
there going east and west.
East-west.
Right.
I'm-
They are
Are they gonna
east-west.
be
Positive.
possible? I mean, I know we talked
So-
about.
And I agree but if the guy that's building them
Yeah.
thinks they're going north and south, that's a problem.
Yes.
Right, I agree. So that's
I will double check with him, but I'm
No,
not sure
I
that we
think
would
there's
be
a-
able to update this graphic between
we could
now
just
and
make a
then.
note.
but-
This is
yeah,
right.
but we could make a
This
note.
is correct.
Yeah, this
And,
graphic is
and I think
They
what
are gonna
might
go
be.
east and west. Is that what
Yes,
you're
and so I think that the plan for two courts can be used for both. I think that's great, but it would be nice to have some, what did we say, he thought by spring?
Yeah.
Plan completion by spring. I think it'd be nice to put in there that we have, that, bids to go out approximately and give some details to council.
Can we phrase it as a goal?
I think planned completion is okay. It's not
Yeah,
saying
plan
that
completion
it's.
by spring of 2000.
I believe he did say that, and then Greg said after the rains.
Well, if it rains, we can't do it, and we'll move it forward. We're just talking about what the plan is at this moment. It's not committing to have it done.
No, the
This
goal,
is our
the
best
plan
estimate at
goal
this point.
is spring of,
Yeah.
I don't know how you want to phrase it, but spring of 2020, whatever you want to preface that with. Completion goal is spring of 2020.
Okay. So I just am thinking maybe a little more detail on what's happening with the project, that it's, that they're working on getting grant. I don't know, just a little detail. What do you guys think? I think council would appreciate it.
yeah.
Agree?
Okay.
And maybe under the 275,000 has been allocated and grant funds are being sought under the money area.
Okay.
Okay, Libby Park restroom remodel is something you're gonna need to get with Greg on.
Yes, I apologize. Ryan had requested to put that in, which makes a lot of sense, but I had not had the
Yeah,
chance
no.
to connect with
Fair
him on
enough.
it.
Yeah.
Maybe that,
And
that rendering drawing that they brought a few meetings back was, do you know which one's on?
There's multiple.
Right.
Yes, there are, so I don't know if there's.
Maybe a smaller version of the choices. I don't know. It would just, they looked really nice. They were
yeah,
really well done.
I think the bottom line is we are weighing in on the project. Beyond that, it's a Greg Grant discussion and not for our.
I could just
joint
write,
meeting.
commission is, providing feedback to the Public Works Department. I could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean.
And maybe
yeah.
put I think there's 3 designs, right?
I think there's more than that, but yeah.
Maybe pick your favorites, and Allison.
Okay.
Well-
You also don't want to necessarily get bogged down on this topic, talking about it with
No, no.
council.
I
Yeah.
just think it would look nice. It's a nice drawing to present.
Okay.
But I also think it might be good to get Greg Grant's timeline to put in there.
Yeah.
So that we are presenting information that we have, the best information we have about the project. Okay, and then we add a
pickleball
for
slide
pickleball.
would go right after, or
Yeah, so
before the
let's jump to
restrooms.
pickleball, and I'll just move it, if that's okay.
Mhm.
So pickleball
That's going to go under
project.
CIP, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 2 slides here. The council, this is actually just about what Renee read to you guys earlier. City council approved unanimously on August 27th to convert the old tennis court adjacent to City Hall into a pickleball court.
I would change the verbiage there
Mhm.
and put
Change it.
pickleball courts.
Yeah.
To-
And let's,
Well, and change the 3 to 4
4.
and put 3, and then we'll put the direction.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
We're gonna put 3?
Is it
I meant
four?
4.
Okay.
4 and put the direction.
Sounds good.
So 4
4 north,
courts.
south facing pickleball courts.
Do you say north-south facing or north-south, like
I'd just put
playing?
north-south,
North-south, okay.
Okay.
because you can't face both directions.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Depending on which side of the court you're on.
Unless you're two-faced.
Because the play is the same
Right.
way as the orientation,
You're right.
right?
Okay. The resurfacing and rehabilitation of the location has been outlined by Public Works and is being funded out of the CAP paving project scheduled for this fall. And this side kind of details that. So phase 1, pruning vegetation and trees, cleanup and surface preparation for paving.
Can I back up just 1 second?
Yep.
On the pickleball project, on that page, where we, yes, thank you. We could, it is, are you okay with no, because the flyer says what it is, but would you like to add just a sentence of what this event is as part of Ojai Day?
Oh, right. I just skimmed over that.
Because otherwise people are going to be like,
The-
what? Why is it on here? What is this?
Right.
This is an ad for the event that we're
We could
doing.
maybe
at
add
Ojai.
just 2 sentences.
I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea, yeah.
I
And
think,
I would also suggest too, get some feedback from y'all about whether or not we want to put fundraising is ongoing, public fundraising, however you want to do that, so we can get that word out as well.
Do we need the last sentence?
The resurfacing part?
No,
No,
because
it's
it's detailed in the
technical.
next slide.
It's technical, and we are covering it down below.
Yeah.
So if you pull that out,
Have more space?
Yeah.
I think also, like bullets instead of
I love bullets.
sentences,
Yeah.
instead of paragraphs, it's so much faster and cleaner.
yeah.
And concise.
Because it sounds like
Agreed.
we've got 5 or 6
Bullets,
bullets
it
worth
does.
of material.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could title it something like public outreach, free event, and then just put bullet what we're doing.
Well, but I think that we should turn that paragraph into bullets, and then one of the bullets will be
Yeah.
about that event.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
And one will be that there's
Fundraising.
fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fundraising is ongoing, however you want to phrase that.
Okay, so the first paragraph will turn into bullet points, and then we're going to add fundraising and the event at Ojai Day.
Great.
Is that-
And
okay.
what is the free raffle?
We received a few items from different pickleball companies, and so the people who come onto the court get raffle tickets. Doesn't cost them anything, and they don't have to be present to win and a racket or a
great.
ball or whatever it is. So Tim's actually been working hard with the vendors, the manufacturers, to get different items.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, and you'll tell him what you're also donating.
I was just gonna add on free raffle, my wife and I had purchased pickleball paddles last year, and so we have some extra ones of those that we're gonna raffle off too, with those items, and I've contacted several manufacturers and paddle makers, and we're waiting to hear back from them too. Each one has told me they need 1 to 2 weeks to decide how much and to what degree they want to give us.
Very nice.
Should we call it something other than raffle? Isn't there some regulations with the, having to have a raffle permit from?
I thought it was free. or
I believe
okay.
as long as it's free, you're
I don't think-
okay.
Can you call it still a raffle, or do you have to call it door
Well,
prizes?
we did on our back cover already.
And we do
I guess a raffle is great. I love the word
Should have
raffle.
sailed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we do it for our open
I thought
house every year.
And it,
as
and we're
well.
okay
In
with
for a
the-
penny, in for a
Never
pound.
had any issues.
Sorry, I thought it was a draft.
Well, this isn't.
Sorry, this isn't.
Okay, perfect. So we're good with with the slide. I'll make those edits. And then, so phase 1, city crews have completed phase 1 of the project. Phase 2, the asphalt paving and resurfacing, is included in the city's paving plan. Phase 3, painting and net kits. Yep.
Can we add to that projected completion
I
by
like that idea,
Thanksgiving?
too.
Oh, yeah.
If people like to know when things are happening.
And it holds them to that too, right? I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Tries to.
And then on phase 3, should we add in fence?
Add in what?
The fence isn't part of the current, this phase of the project.
Okay,
So it's not on the radar to do right now.
okay.
The only other thing that Greg mentioned was possibly some conduits for
Yeah.
future. That might be kind of nice for them to know
I think
that we're
would be
thinking
really
ahead, and
smart.
because I'm sure at some point we're going to look for some support on that.
That comes in
think it's
phase,
really-
it comes in phase 2, if you're gonna add it. Because it's part of the preparation.
Right, you have to
before-
put them in before you pay them
Yeah.
and do all that
Well,
stuff.
I just say, just because he mentioned it, I think it would be good to
Mhm.
include it.
Yep.
And I
That's a
think it's
great idea.
important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so in phase 3, I'm adding lighting conduit, and I'm adding projected completion by,
I would add the lighting conduit to phase 2, because it needs to happen before the paving.
sorry, did I say phase, I meant
Yeah,
phase 2.
okay,
Yeah.
just
My
because I
apologies.
know some people will notice that at council and be.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
wonder why it's backwards.
Yeah.
And one other thing that we talked about at ad hoc level was, Tim, were you gonna put in some, the sleeves for the netting? So that, and that was in phase,
That's part of the net kit.
okay, but if the, net kit is in phase 3, doesn't the net kit preparation need to be before
Well-
paving? Because you want to sleeve it first, right? Before
Well,
you
I want to
pave?
say something about the phases too. This was something just that came up today. Let's add a slide about this. And I would really like to talk to the city manager about if we want these phases.
Okay.
And then, because the conduits have not been approved yet, if we put that into a phase or even doing it, it hasn't been approved yet. And yes, we could add sleeves and net kits, but really maybe we're going to call phase 3 fundraising instead and change the title of it.
Got it.
And that will be in the next draft that you're able to see before our
Okay,
joint meeting.
okay, so we will just circle back around to this one when we get to it. But you've heard
Yeah.
the feedback from us already, and see if that can be incorporated into whatever changes.
And,
are
and
made.
Really?
I didn't really read ahead, but we probably don't need a bullet point on fundraising if it's listed right here in a big arrow.
I don't
Just a
know.
thought.
Yeah, that's true. If it's its own arrow,
Yeah, it gets its own arrow, that's pretty.
it doesn't need a bullet.
Doesn't need a bullet. All right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then I'm gonna jump back to, 20 and 21. So commission activities. So this, Ryan had requested to just list, the topics that you guys have covered in the last year. So I went through all of our agendas from the last time we met, since the last time we met with council, and pulled out the discussion items. And this is in order of the amount of times you've talked about them. So I don't know if that's the order you want, but that's just what made sense in my brain.
Yep.
So if you guys have any feedback on what you want that to look like, happy to do that.
Now, the Libby Bowl lawn was discussed at length at the last joint meeting, right? I don't think it's come up really again since then.
It
I
has.
think you guys talked
I bet-
about it like one or
Maybe-
two meetings after
Maybe it was in
that.
my departure,
It might.
during my vacation.
It might have been during your extended vacation.
Right. Okay.
Libby Bowl fee waivers, I think. It hasn't asked on, I read it that way, but
Oh, waivers.
it's just a little thing, sorry.
Yep, no, you're good.
Is this the Libby Bowl or the Libby tennis court?
No, this is Libby
Bowl.
Bowl. We review fee waivers here at this commission now.
I can update you on
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Which
Once a
should be
year.
coming, actually. What is the timeline on those? That's something that last year was not right as
We were
streamlined.
off.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe she needs to know about that timeline so she can be.
We can talk about that.
preparing.
And Allison knows too, and we're, okay.
Yeah, that's something we should talk about. Thank you.
And let's see, Libby Bowl, public pools. It seemed like so much more.
So, I mean, obviously, like, there were other things, but, so, like, I didn't include any of, like, the, because you guys had discussions talking about setting up ad hoc committees or discussions, you know,
Yeah.
but these were just, like, the
Yeah.
big
Yep,
things.
no, it's good.
And some of them you talked about 4 and 5 times, so.
I like the way you ordered it too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Perfect. Okay,
Okay.
so then skipping back over
So do we
pickleball.
want this before CIP or after? Do we want to finish with CIP?
I think CIP
I think
should be the
it's gonna
very
cause a
last.
lot of
Yeah.
Okay,
discussion.
so commission topics will move in front of, so instead of being page 21, it'll move to
Okay,
14 or 15, right around there.
yeah,
Those
you don't
are
have to
gone.
worry about that.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
Okay, so then, jumping to 24, Youth Committee. The new Commissioner Raquel Duenas and Youth Commissioner alternate Phoebe Dorn began in June of 2019. They are meeting regularly to assess the needs of youth in the Valley and to begin planning events. Their goal is to run 3 events before the end of the calendar year. So we don't have any concrete events yet, but that's,
We're working on all
Could
that.
we put that they're co-chairing the committee
yeah.
as part of the description?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that it's actually one of our committees? Though I don't know that it's on our list, and that's something else we need to
So
make sure we've got on there.
we've already, earlier in the presentation, we acknowledged that we have these 2 new commissioner and commissioner alternate. So it could just be co-chair, this first bullet could say co-chaired by Youth Commissioner Raquel
Yeah.
Duenas and Youth Commissioner alternate Phoebe Dorn.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, perfect.
And the committee began meeting in June of 2019. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Because the committee is more than just the 2 of you.
yes. All right, perfect. Commission ad hoc committee, so this is a list of your currently active
Can I
ad
ask one
hoc
more question?
committees. Yeah.
Raquel, is there anything else you'd like to have on there that you've been working on that you'd like to list as a bullet point?
I don't think so, not at the moment.
Okay,
If I think of something like randomly, I'll tell
okay.
Great. So again, just your ad hoc committees listed. Do you want to maybe move this to before the CIP, like right after your discussion items? Or right after the topics that you've been working on?
I think
Does that
that
make
the
sense?
topics, the ad hoc should come before these discussion items. Because I think the discussion items are gonna take up the rest of the meeting, so. if they-
Right,
if
so
they
I can
have any
move this
questions
to-
about the committees
Well, it seems like there's only one discussion item.
Mm-hmm.
and the CIP.
Right,
Right.
right, those 2. And I
So-
agree, those 2 should be at the end.
So I can move this commission ad hoc committees to right after this slide, the commission topics.
Yes,
That's
I
kind of,
think
and,
so.
and then move into the
That makes-
discussion items.
That makes good
Okay.
sense, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then,
So then the youth committee,
Should go right before the commission ad hocs.
it is
or
actually.
right,
a
or right
commission.
after,
Right
right
after
after the
that.
commission ad hocs?
Yeah,
Oh,
because it's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
listed
Right, it
as
is.
an ad hoc committee.
Right, let's do that. Okay, I am so out of order here. You guys are stapled. Okay. Okay. So then the last things I had here was discussion items. So the one discussion item that
Oh.
was solidified that you wanted, oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, on the commission ad hoc committee slide, for each of these bullets, maybe a short description
I
of what
was-
the committee is.
And with the youth one, we'll have a description following because it's newer and more is happening.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, would one of you want to maybe take a stab at those descriptions? Or would you like me to do that?
And I don't know if they need to be written on here, but I think, Sage, if you can just talk them through it for each one.
I think it would be good to have them written on there just because we're,
You sending it in advance?
well, not just that, but you can see this, it'll be on video too, right? Aren't these
Right.
items are on video, so at home you'll be able to see it. So if you're missing it as part of the discussion, you can still see it up there and read it, that
And
part.
if we've written a little something, then we don't have to talk about each one of them.
That's true.
If we don't want to spend time on them.
We can move through it a little more quickly,
I like that idea.
yeah.
Okay,
I rescind my
it's-
remark.
So yeah, okay.
Allison, do you need maybe just 2 keywords for each item?
right, I mean, if you want, I can take a stab at writing those up and bring them back to you guys. I just wasn't sure if you, because, like facilities, like, I'm not totally sure what exactly the facilities is working on at the moment. But,
That's because it might not be working on things
Right.
at the moment.
okay, well, we can work on it, we can work on that outside of this meeting,
We'll
how's
work on
that?
it, okay, yes, I'll work with you on that.
Perfect, I am writing Sage on my piece of paper.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so then,
So then this will go before youth committee will come after. And pickleball's already covered in the other part. Okay.
right,
that
so
looks good.
then,
And then we put the CIP in.
Yeah, so discussion, so CIP will go after this discussion item slide, and then pickleball,
Each of those
sport
slides that
court,
we have
and-
for
yeah,
the CIP projects will go there.
Right.
And then the floating bike and Ojai safety and accessibility. And I'm not
Do you
totally
guys
clear
wanna
on
Keep that.
what we're trying to
Do
accomplish
we
with
need
that.
that to have that in there?
I don't think we're prepared to have a really educated discussion
No,
on it.
I mean,
so
if it's a
I
5-year
would strike it.
plan, basically, I don't know what we're gonna discuss about it.
There are a lot of
in the
people
next
working
year.
on this.
Right.
Can't we just have
And we
discussion
haven't.
items and
We
open the
haven't
floor
worked on
to
it.
the council? Can we just have discussion items as our last slide?
Yes, and then see-
Because
mhm.
that was the part that was my first commission, joint commission meeting last year, and I would have liked to have had more time for discussion.
I agree.
I can't remember why we got off track, but,
Let's not bring it up.
okay.
I do remember, but we don't want to bring it
So
up
I-
again.
Yeah, I think that having that opportunity is, once a year.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be able to have some discussion time.
So it's not even items, it's just discussion.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, take out items, good
So
idea.
then,
we're-
do you want me to put
we're
the
getting rid
CIP
of-
stuff directly before this then?
Yes.
CIP, and
Okay.
that's the thing, and then we go into discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the council's gonna pick and choose what they wanna discuss. not
Which will
us.
happen along the way, but
Right.
that may eliminate what we want to have our time left to discuss.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I mean, I think one thing that I'd be interested in discussing with the council is kind of high level what they'd like from us. Because I think like when Randy's here, like he has very specific suggestions and we don't do any of them, right? And we don't hear from other council members, but I don't know, are they happy with what we're doing? Should we be doing something different?
And
We're here to serve them.
And
That's a great point.
Well, and then as a point to that, as we push things forward to them, how,
Going over the process maybe, and because that was frustrating.
It is
I agree,
frustrating.
when we were making recommendations and they're not getting really
They
to
don't
the
make it
commission. Yeah,
to
or
the-
they're
to
not
the
getting all the
council.
way to the council.
yeah. So how we work together.
And maybe that could be the last
about-
slide under discussion items is, and I don't know how you'd want to word it,
Roles and responsibility type.
council's recommendations for the Parks and what do they want us to do? I mean,
How about like a recap of responsibilities and expectations, something
Yeah.
along those lines?
I think that's a great idea.
And would we like to just put out there that we're hoping that as we move forward, as we make recommendations, we get direct feedback in a timely fashion?
Well, I think that might not be something we want to put on the slide.
No,
but-
no.
But that's what we can discuss. Okay.
But I think to Susie's point is we do end up spinning our wheels a lot and not wasting time, putting a lot of time and energy into things that don't go anywhere.
Well, I mean, the multi-sport court is a perfect example. We spent countless hours, and unless I watched the, discussion, and I don't know that they have time to watch all the different commissions, but our recommendation was really clear, and I will say that it, just from a commissioner's standpoint, it was discouraging that it didn't make it timely to the council.
Yeah.
And in full form.
I would also say that it's part of this is a communication piece. If it's not making it, please communicate back
right.
as to
Where's the
why and
breakdown?
when,
Mhm.
and just not that we put it forward and then we have no more information.
Right, no follow through.
And that's a good, where is the roadblock?
Well, we don't really know, because there wasn't really a direct answer. on
I
that.
think the expectation just is if we put something forward, that staff report back to us each meeting until it moves forward, where it's at, like
Oh, like some accountability.
some accountability to, not, because I'm fully aware that council, there are things that come up on the regular that push aside naming policies and all of these things. They're very busy. But I think more than anything, it's just for us to know that they haven't forgotten it, that it's on their radar, but it hasn't made it to the place where it can make it to council yet. And that is if we're kept in that kind of loop,
Right. Versus our recommendation
Yeah.
just getting pushed to the side and
Well-
staff's recommendation being moved forward.
And that's my question is, we make a recommendation and it goes to someone
Staff.
who then,
Right.
whatever staff is, right? And then it just gets either pushed aside, like no, or, but that's not fair to us, or, I don't know where that is, and who makes that decision on what gets to council and what doesn't.
Renee, can you weigh in on your direction? How?
you're so new, it's not really fair because you don't even
Well,
know
that
what we're
should be-
speaking of, but.
Well, that should have been something that, was maybe discussed in your initial month. being here?
I actually
The
do,
function of the council?
cannot speak to that because I do not have the experience yet to see. I haven't been here to live, okay, this is what the commission wants, and to see what city council does with it.
I think that's fair.
It might be, is a little off topic, but it might be helpful to actually include in our agenda like a list of outstanding recommendations. Like
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Then it's just like it's there
Yeah.
each month, and we can ask.
We'll ask for an
Oh,
update for every month. So there'll be a section that is update on pending
Follow-up.
Right,
recommendations.
and we could actually list what we have approved but hasn't been addressed.
One of the things that I recall coming up a lot, and I think it's from Councilman Haney more than anybody else, is we'll ask questions and they'll go, who asked you to do that? We haven't been asked to look at that, but we're looking at stuff. So are we supposed to wait for recommendations from the council before we do something? Or are we supposed to do? He indicated that that's the case.
Oh, that's
I
so
don't know
funny.
who asked you guys to do that. Nobody's asked you to do that. I clearly remember him making that statement. I think I'm right. Does anybody else?
Because I heard it differently.
Oh, well.
But that's fine.
Also, that's
Yeah,
just a
but it's a
perfect
clarification.
discussion item.
Yeah, and I
to
just want
talk
to know, are we
council
supposed to
on
wait
their-
for direction from them, or what, how does that process work? Because all we are is a recommending body.
Yes.
That's all we are.
I think it goes both ways, but I think, so communication is the discussion item in a
Yeah.
broad sense?
Yeah. It would just be important to know, are we supposed to wait for them or come up with stuff to give them?
I think it's,
Develop stuff on our own. So I'm confused about that. I don't know if anybody else is, but I am.
so,
That quieted the room. Okay.
so, do we want bullet
That-
points? Do we want communication as an item, communication between the commission and council?
Improved communication, maybe.
Well, we are supposed to have a council person come to each of our meetings, isn't there? Right, so maybe wondering why that doesn't always happen, or, and to answer questions like this would be helpful.
Yeah.
Supposed to be here.
So do we want more specific language as to what we want to discuss, or do we just want a general communication between council and commission as a way to start that discussion?
Sure, there's some like guidelines that we have as a commission that we can maybe put on agenda to recap type of our function
Our
and just
role.
kind of like, yeah, go over roles and responsibilities. I mean, especially for the youth commissioners, they probably haven't
So,
had that
I
opportunity.
know, we don't do it on the regular, so do you want to put that on our
On our
October?
next. Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay,
And then that'll give Renee a good insight on roles and responsibilities and kind of like functions, just how they're supposed to be. And
so that's our homework that we'll do in October, but as to the discussion,
well, maybe we just leave it under discussion, and then
I just think
any of us can come up and say, hey, you know, this has come up, and we have some questions about communication and
Yeah.
follow-up, and can we just kind of briefly go over
Yeah.
how that's supposed to work
Just
in
looking for
theory?
clarification as to, for the Parks and Recreation Commission, is that how it,
Expectation.
expectation from the council.
Yeah, I think that's just a
okay,
verbal.
so as a discussion item, can we put communication between commission and council?
Sure.
As a,
Yeah.
just as a placeholder so that everyone sees it and we're all talking at the same time
Yeah.
about, and then we will refine what it is we want to discuss after reviewing our roles and responsibilities at our next meeting. Okay, does that seem, so
Mhm.
one more slide.
Yep.
And then under that, another bullet point, which is other items, because it's open at that point for council,
Discussion.
yeah, for everyone
I
to.
like that.
All right, so that will have two discussion, well, you can call it items or not items, but we'll have 2 bullet points. Okay, all right. Does everybody feel good? Anything else? Thank you.
Great, yeah, great
Yeah.
job.
Of course, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, thanks.
We're on to item 9, recreation staff report and updates. If it's too hard, you can
My-
make
if
it.
it's
Do you want me to
brief.
start?
I can do some of it, and then Allison's definitely going to do the sports side.
Okay.
As you all know, our activity guide came out. We worked really hard on this. This is for fall. It was mailed to all the residents of Ojai, the citizens, on a week ago. It was available online a little bit before that, a couple of days before that. And so we hope that every resident has it, and it's available at the community center, at the Boyd Center as well. As you can see, I just want to really just highlight the brochure. So Allison already highlighted on the slideshow that we added some programs. She's going to talk more about registration for softball and basketball that just ended and how we're doing with that, and then some youth sports programs. We added, obviously, wilderness programs continue to do very well. We added it's a safety skills skateboarding class that we're going to do one day a week at the skateboard park. And because it involves safety as well, we expect that it will do very well. And actually, this program guide has only been out for like a week, and the class only has like 2 openings left.
Great.
So it's a great educational and keep them safe and skills class.
Do you take over the whole park, or you just take a section of the park?
It depends on how many we have. The instructor feels that it's safer to take over the park, and I've been observing. We're doing monthly inspections with the bathrooms and the park, and every time that we go to City Hall and this and that, we're driving by. I have been just to see, like, okay, especially now that school started, what is the popularity of it? At this time, but this is like right after school. Kids usually have. I'm hoping that our teens and our high schoolers are doing homework at least
They're
for
getting
the
off
first
to a good
hour,
start.
maybe at the library. So yeah, this is an enrichment class after school, and I thought it was the best time and it's only once a week, and we're only doing one session for right now, and then we'll wait till the next. So I don't think that it's going to impact.
I was just curious.
the
So
park.
the plan is to close it for that.
Right, it would
Okay.
be safer to do that.
Good.
Is this on the new classes list in
Yes.
the slides?
But it says skateboarding. There's one suggestion that I have to change it to, it does say skateboarding, but to change it to skateboarding safety and skills. I think that word, safety and skill, because it's in the description, and it's a big part of our community. And
I'm glad it's coming back, because for quite a few years, the skate park was programmed and had classes.
Good. Yeah, we have an instructor from Ventura that owns a skate lab, a skate company. So I think he'll be the perfect person to do it.
It would be important too to put signage up at the skate park
Oh,
well in
yes.
advance that it's
Yes.
going to be closed that day,
Yes.
just to prevent headaches.
And we've already just started doing that for tennis courts too. Today I posted all the special events that are happening, and signage is really good. And yes, that was in the plans. Thank you. Yoga used to be around. We brought it back. Very affordable as well. Good instructor. And of course, and then we did, as Allison also brought up in the slideshow, we have a new parent-child development class, movement class. And then everybody's really jazzed about using a ghost hunt expert. He is actually an author, and he does all the ghost tours for Ventura, and he used to do it for the museum here. And so we pulled him back in, and really, really excited. We're going to do one every season. So people will start knowing they'll start looking for it, going, oh,
You know who's
where
very
is
excited
Richard
in my
here?
household? A teenager.
Sorry?
A teenager is the most excited person in my household about that. So it's interesting that may be a teen kind of something we could bring in to do a teen program with that too.
And what is the capacity of the tour?
He can take up to 25 to 40, and the reason is because we actually, one of our employees, that's his daughter, and she helps, and his wife helps, and the whole family helps.
Nice.
And
Very nice.
and I'm going to be there, so we have all the help, and we have a couple of surprises that I don't want to give away on the tour. The first one is a walking tour, and every season I plan on it being a different theme.
That's great.
So
And it starts at a specific location.
it does this one. Yeah, it explains in here. There's actually a flyer to this.
I'm assuming since
And-
it's the Charman thing, it might be Creek Road, but I,
12, page 12.
Page 12.
Yeah, it's page 12, and where is he starting? Well, it's definitely the downtown area. I did put in here where to meet.
Once you
join
register, you get to
other-
find out.
Yeah, it's
I
like.
Right.
don't think the registration's
It's like
are-
ghostly
or the
code.
meet location's
I was just
actually in
curious.
here.
Probably because you need to register to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
We'll
'cause
email
the-
out the location for the meetup.
Yeah.
I think that got left out. We had added it at the end to the advertisement, and
I
something
think
happened.
it's okay that it's not in there.
But we
I
know,
think it's
we
a good
know,
idea.
we know.
I do too.
Or they'll have to walk around and a ghost will tell them where it is. And then, sorry, so that's the big thing that's happening.
Great idea.
And what else was I going to say? Sorry. Tomorrow night we're going to one of the elementary schools and we're doing a back tonight. We have a booth there so that we're going to give, we did a generic flyer that has all the programs listed on here, but it's one page so that because we don't get a lot of brochures, so we didn't want to hand out like 100 brochures. So that will help promote activities. And so we're looking for other ways to advertise activities.
So it's a back to school night?
Mhm.
Nice. Which campus are you going to be at?
It's actually tonight.
Oh, sorry, yes, it is
Vicki
tonight.
there
Vicky's
tonight.
doing
Have
it.
it till what?
It's actually at Sunset.
Sunset.
Oh, okay, nice. Reaching
Which
out
is-
farther into the.
Yeah, but the
great.
principal actually asked us to do this, and so it would be a good idea in the future to try to get into these.
All of the different.
Although she has an auditorium, some people do back to school night and they just go to the individual classrooms. But this was an opportunity for different vendors.
Nice.
So I like the way that she has it structured.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and she invites us. We generally go most years.
That's great.
Because she's all about, we're the valley and wanting
Yeah.
to serve valley residents. So.
I did have a question about the movie nights. Where are we reaching out to advertise those to kind of up those numbers? It seems like a really great opportunity for parents, but I just don't know if, can we collaborate with I know we don't want to invite, all schools, but
Yeah.
is there a way that we could maybe put it on like the website of the OUSD
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I just was thinking, I don't know what your capacity is, maybe if it is that popular, you say reservations required or limited
Right.
numbers type of thing.
Yeah, we haven't had to do that yet.
We
But
do, we do have the opportunity to be able to send out flyers like that, and the school allows us also the opportunity to put them into groups and put them into the child's backpacks or.
So they have this new thing that they rolled out this year.
Wonderful.
So it's amazing. And Renee, if you have an opportunity, I know Tiffany is really busy, but
Oh my God.
Robin Munson, who is the principal at San Antonio, she's, I was at a meeting Tuesday. She's kind of like the Parent Square guru, and that's what it's called. It's an online app for those of you who don't have kids in OUSD, and it is basically changing the entire communication of parent, teacher, administrator. There is no more paper forms. There is no even trying to eliminate like the PTA flyers that would go home to say join PTA. That's all electronic. It's all through an app. The form's uploaded as a PDF, and then everything is, boom, boom, boom. And those local principals can, coordinate with their PTAs to upload stuff like that. And they're giving those after-school, programs, that kind of information.
So maybe the question is we used to get it stamped and it was paper. Maybe we get it stamped and it goes to Parent Square.
Yeah, so I'm saying maybe
possibility.
OUSD, and so Robin would be a good contact to connect with as to what the, the access to posting stuff is really restricted to administrators, teachers and stuff, but it does still have to be approved.
Right.
But the PTA presidents have the ability to do that, so you wouldn't have to bog down like.
It'd be a good conversation to have.
Mhm.
I think
It's really awesome.
Yeah, the superintendent, Tiffany Morse, spoke today to the Women's Club, and I happened to be there, and my question to her was, what's your participation on Parent Square? It's 98%.
It was amazing.
Absolutely unheard of.
when
to have contacts for 98% of their parents.
When Robin I had the same presentation on Tuesday, and when she pulled it up, I assumed that was for her small school. And she said, no, it's for the district.
It's for the whole,
It was
and students
really-
have it. We have a student square that's all on all of our phones.
So all the testing scores are even on there, grades, attendance. Braylee, if you're watching, I can see what you buy for school lunch. It's all on there.
And it comes in, how many languages
Oh, and it automatically translates. So if you not,
so
it
many
doesn't translate a
languages.
PDF, but if you have a little message that you want to say movie night at the rec at 6 o'clock drop off, and you do it in the body of the message, the user's preferences automatically translates to Spanish or
Any number of
yeah,
languages.
whatever.
Well,
There's
and
a number of
the key is,
languages.
are they gonna let outside
That's the
people
question.
use
But
it?
it's something to.
No, it's very restricted as far as what
Right.
you can post.
Right.
It's between parent and teacher. Parents can't post anything. They can just correspond with their teachers or the postings. But like they just opened it up to the PTAs to like do fundraising type brochures and communications. But the teachers are really supportive of it. I almost felt a little overwhelmed with the amount of messages I was getting, but it's new because it's the first start of school. But it's going to be a really great tool, and it's something that we should definitely get on board with for recreation. I think it would be a great tool for you.
Great. We're also using Nextdoor and Moms Clubs and homeschool clubs too. So, and there's a lot more opportunities out there. So thank you.
Awesome.
Tiny
Sports.
Yeah, do you
Can I
want me to
give
do
a
a couple
tiny bit of
updates?
feedback? Usually when we present this, we give any feedback that we need to. I just had one thing is we've been giving space to the Ojai Library. Is it in here? I couldn't find it.
Did it get eliminated? I know
Because
we
that
did
has been a partnership that we formed that I think is a
So I
really
believe
good.
we did a
that,
decent amount of last minute shuffle.
I believe that Megan contacted them. I could be wrong.
We had one in here at one point.
Yeah.
We've had it multiple times.
Yeah, I meant, sorry, in the draft versions. And we had a couple last minute additions, so yeah, it does look like it got eliminated, but yeah,
I just want to make sure that in the future we don't eliminate. I think it's a great partnership, and I want to support the library because they support our schools and the youth that we're
right.
programming to. And I because we're the only organization that sends all the way out, I want to make sure that we're using it to help
Right.
communicate with families all the things that are out there, and adults as well as children. That was the one thing, because I just, and we can just make sure before next time we get that communication
Right.
up and going or get it back in there.
One new thing that we added this year was, if you notice on every single page, it says register online and the phone number, because that wasn't apparent enough. So that was a nice addition. And then moving forward to the next brochure, I believe that, I already talked to the printer about it, but I believe that I would like another fall classes to be separated between youth and adult, because I mean it's nice that people look through everything to find their class, but I know as a user I would
Yeah.
really like to just look at my youth class that's right there.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So maybe along those lines, I think that, and I've brought this up in the past, but the online experience of using the guide leaves something to be desired. Because basically you have to open up the document to, it's almost like you're reading it like this, but like online you'd expect maybe like a list of
More interactive.
activities, yeah.
Kind of the sheet you're
Click it
talking
like
about,
live.
too.
Like live links, like you find your activity and you should just be able to
So
click on it.
we do have a live
That
link.
is-
When you go onto it, you just click what activity you want.
Right,
And
but you have to open up this PDF, this live linked PDF document to
To get it.
get
So
in
maybe,
there.
maybe an alternate is the one sheet you're doing for promotion could be a live linked one sheet, as well as if you want to go to the whole document.
The problem is that there's like, so for the horsemanship program, there could be 6 codes for the different sessions, different class times or whatever. So that's why, like, we wouldn't just be able to do like, here's the page of pick your activity. The other option that is on there, but it's a little bit more hidden, that we could make more clear, is if you prefer to just search for your activity, click here, and that would take you to the just online registration platform, and then you could search by title or activity number. So that is an option that's on the website, but it's not as clear. So we could try and make that more clear.
Okay, yeah, it's
That
just,
makes
if we didn't have an activity guide and we were just thinking, how would we set up a website to kind of find activities?
Right.
It wouldn't look like it does online.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just not
Yeah,
sure how to
it's not a small fix.
There's so many codes.
I just want to keep it on your radars.
Yeah, there's probably hundreds of codes.
Because
in there,
I'd love,
so-
like, if I didn't have this in front of me and I didn't want to try to open this on my computer, I'd love to have a
Right.
quick way to kind
So
of
you're just
navigate.
saying elevate the search function to equal or, so as it comes up and you look at it, that you see that at the same time you see the option to click the whole guide.
I mean, maybe, yeah. So, like, imagine you go online and you say, okay, I want to look for a class, right? you click on a button that says classes, right? I want to look on a class for kids. So you click on the button for kids or for adults. And then it lists kids' classes. And then maybe you click on one and it shows
Okay.
you kind of
Like a,
what's.
like a
Yeah.
drop-down
Drop-down.
menu, and you
Drop-down
click it, and it gives you the schedules, and you
Right.
pick the
You
schedule.
could just have,
hierarchy.
you could look into possibly if you have, you're saying that each like week, for example, has a different activity code, right? Well, couldn't you make the title of that drop, like more of a drop-down choice, like this is the activity, kids hiking, and you click on it and it's like, week 1 is this activity code, because I don't know that the parents really even
Yeah.
need to have the activity code, they just need to be able to click on the time or
Yeah.
the date
I
that
think
they're
I
selecting.
think I'm with you guys, but it would be a lot of staff time to try and do something like that and to keep it updated with every activity guide. I'm not sure how feasible it is.
So this is feedback for in the future is,
Right.
Right.
We could do a one-page, like, at-a-glance type thing. The other thing is when you download this, I believe that it reacts with, sorry, there's a fly, reacts with Control Find and whatever classes you're looking for. The other
that function.
yes, me too. The other advantage of looking through the whole brochure is that they get to see things. Like, if sometimes I think that if you have a link, okay, do you want gymnastics? Just click here, and they don't even get to see the brochure. Then they don't get to see our free events that we're doing, and they miss the whole opportunity, all of the opportunities in here. And there's pros and cons.
I just like the option, because if you're someone who has it at
redevelop
home
it.
and you've already looked through it thoroughly, I like the idea that you go and just go right to work on what you want to get done versus having to do it. So I think both are, if you could,
Yeah, we can research it.
Yeah, maybe there's some tools out there that make that kind of thing easy.
Well, there might also be another organization that does it like that. Like right now, all the ones in the Tri-County, most of them do it like this, and then it flips, click, 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 and they all do it like this. And we all have very similar softwares.
I would, Ventura for Aquatics does just lists. Like they have they have a breakout for like aquatics, and you can click on thing. I know, just if you're looking for an example, that's just one I've used
Okay.
for their aquatics program that's a little bit different than the rest of the brochure. And then one little change, to change Susie's name to Susie instead of Paula, both on our agendas and in the guide.
I do prefer that name, thank you.
We keep doing it. We
Where
brought it
is
up a
this?
couple of times. Under Parks and Recreation Commission, you have Paula Taylor, but she goes by Susie Taylor.
The end, in the back.
At the very back on page 23.
Yeah.
It's a little thing.
I can-
And then on the agendas too.
And it's actually updated on the agenda. I think Renee updated it. It's
Okay.
correct
On
on
the
this
minutes from-
agenda.
we
but
can
I'll-
change it for sure. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
This one's, it's absolutely correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Minutes are-
That's just a little thing, but,
Thank you.
and did we have
You're welcome.
nearly the same number of ads or less ads, or is it?
We had less. We had
Like
like
less.
one. We did. We had like two. We had, I think, just one. We had an opportunity for one ad that we did not obtain this time. So we've already discussed with staff on how to go to local businesses and like get some more ads. So we're working on that for next
Yeah,
time.
and we've tried, we don't have a policy about this, but we've tried historically to make them not just any business, but things related to recreation, programming, and availability of services. We've tried to kind of keep it in that vein. That was
Well,
pretty purposeful.
There's a lot of opportunities there with restaurants and different things. I mean,
We haven't done that historically.
the other thing is that you also don't want to put ads in there that compete against our own programs.
We actually decided as a commission, this was quite a few years ago, not everybody was here for that discussion, but the discussion was, like, the library, you could see as a competitor, but.
Oh, for
be-
after
No, not the library, but
But
like
I'm just saying there are
a
some
swim
programs
school,
out
let's
there.
say.
Right.
On the,
I think, like,
on the our
specific,
swim
like,
aquatics
there are-
page.
There's
No.
there's a school that literally offers the same Lego camp that we offer.
Right.
So we've discussed like not allowing them to advertise if it's the same.
Okay,
Program.
that's fine if it's the same, but,
Right.
yeah, but I think that there are other.
But there's
Aren't we
lots of other
sort of getting
opportunities.
bogged down into issues that could be done away from this commission? I mean, I don't know why we're pinpointing this thing and spending 20 minutes on the brochure when that can all be done
Well, here's another,
privately with Renee.
or we could just see a draft of it and do it then, because we have done that historically too,
Yeah.
to see the draft ahead of time. It's just feedback, because once it's, when we have the opportunity. But I'm fine with that if we, instead we agendize trying to look at the draft before it's ready, if there's time, and I know that that's the problem, is it's tight.
Right.
Okay, so, on to sports.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a ton of updates. We did have our adult and softball and basketball seasons were queued up to start. During the summer, we ran for softball Tuesday nights and Friday nights. It's dropped off a bit. Friday nights often dies out in the fall because of all things Nordoff football. A lot of people that go to that. So we just have Tuesday nights. We have 4 teams on Tuesday nights. They're going to be starting this coming Tuesday. And I was trying to run basketball again. It ran in the spring, not much interest in the summer, and I was trying to run it again in the fall, but again, not much interest. I've kind of noticed a trend with adult sports that they tend, whereas youth activities ramp up in the fall, adult activities die down. So people are running their kids around or are tired from after summer or whatnot. So that's dropped off a bit, but not too worried about it. And then, so that's the sports. And then, of course, we have all of our, classes and activities starting up. But the other one I wanted to mention was Ojai Day. That is coming up October 19th. We've talked about you guys representing as a commission, so we still will maybe want to talk about that at your next meeting. That'll be the last meeting before that day of what you guys want to do that day. But as far as Ojai Day as a whole, it's coming along. I do not have a number of vendors. I apologize. The Ojai Day coordinator is actually getting married this weekend, so it's been a busy time. But as soon as she's back from her honeymoon next week, we will be back in full force. But we're doing quite a bit of advertising this year. Last year, I don't know if any of you guys were aware, but we didn't end up being able to do the insert in the Ojai Valley News last year. We are on track to have the insert again this year. We're doing ads in the OVN, I believe every week or every other week leading up. And I am going to be leading the team effort again. So we are looking for volunteers for Ojai Day if anybody's interested. We're looking for people to volunteer for a 2-hour shift or a 48-hour shift, whatever, or anywhere in between. So definitely need a lot of all hands on deck. If anybody's interested in helping out, we'd love to have you. And yeah, that's about my update. It's going to be a fun day.
The medallion painting.
The mandala, yep.
Mandala.
Yep.
We also mentioned, did you talk about the tables available to meet your commissioner? We mentioned
Right.
it last meeting, and so there is the opportunity. You should let us know so that we can have enough tables out, but if you'd like to be out there, meet your commissioner, and
I think they're planning on having that
that'd
booth.
be great.
Yeah.
And I just put it on future agenda items, so we'll have it on our next agenda.
Thanks.
Yep. So you guys are committed. We just got to get all the other commissions to commit.
Okay.
And then I don't think I had any other. Oh, I wanted to give you guys just some quick numbers from the summer. I told you at last meeting that I would try and have numbers for you guys. So our day camps, these are just overall registration totals from 2018 to 2019. So our day camp did go down in overall registration. In 2018, we were at 1,700 approximately. This year, we're at 1,410. So we went down a little bit. And like I said, that average represents that as well. Interestingly, with the I was trying to kind of keep you guys updated on the resident versus non-resident for the city. So for this year, with the approximately 1,400, we had 870 that were in city versus 530 that are out of city. So there's a pretty big difference there. But then if you look at specialty camps, those numbers are a lot closer. They're pretty even. So it is interesting that our day camp, we just got a lot more people that are in the neighborhood because people don't want to be driving around.
Allison,
Yeah.
That's a big difference. The day camp, it's like 20% different. Was there like one less week of camp this year? Or
So it essentially went from 1,700 to 1,400.
Yeah.
There was not a difference in the days of camp now.
But that could also be affected by if they signed up for a full week or signed up for 4
Right.
days. This is where that number again.
But this is the number of days someone went to camp, or this is
the number of registrations.
It's back to
So
that.
again, it's
Okay.
it's
Well, what's
difficult
the
numbers.
revenue?
okay,
How
but-
about the revenue? Can you compare the revenue for those? Do you
Yeah.
have that?
I
Would
do,
that be
I
a more
can
accurate-
bring that for you. I don't have it.
Wouldn't that
It's
be
in the
a
presentation.
more accurate representation of attendance? Is there a big difference between drop-in and
Better
like
figure.
weekly registration discounts that?
There is, but it's almost impossible to have a fully accurate, so that's why I try and do the daily, that's why I do the daily average for you guys. So going from 51 to 49,
It really wasn't that big of a difference.
Right.
yeah, 51 to 49.
So
So to me, that's the most helpful number.
Yeah.
if somebody registers at the beginning of summer for the entire summer, that's one registration, right?
No, so they'd be registering for 9 weeks, so that would be nine.
Okay, that's how you
They
count
would
that.
be 9 in that total.
And what if they didn't register but dropped in for every day? I mean, in theory, they
That would
could,
look
right?
like a
We-
lot more
Like
registrations.
so that'd be like 81 registrations, right?
Yeah.
No, well, we
They
wouldn't do
did-
it that way.
Oh.
It would end up being 9 because we'd move them into the full week.
Well, but if they did 4 days a week or didn't do a complete week or did 3, it would look,
So the max it could
Right.
be would be 3 times 9.
So one person can look like 27 registrations?
or 9,
Or 9.
or somewhere in between there.
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be a better formula for figuring that out.
Yeah.
And I don't know
I
what
feel
it
like
is.
The only thing I've thought of is the daily
I think it's
average.
just,
Not
I
that
just.
smart.
No,
I
just-
think the
yeah.
daily one is
The
is
daily
very
one does it.
useful.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because that gives an accurate picture of each day.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and the specialty camp numbers are also easier to understand because those are, you're registering for a week. So that's easy. So specialty camps, in 2018, we had 472. This year we had 466. So we went down by a total of 6 participants. We also went down in the number of camps we offered. We had a few instructors not come back or, combined camps or whatnot. So we went from 50 total camp offerings to 41 total camp offerings. So really our camps that we have grew. And then aquatics, as you know, did shrink significantly this year. So we went from 254 total registrations in 2018 to 136 in 2019.
And the more important number is were you full?
Our classes were
Full.
absolutely full.
So what capacity you had, you filled.
Absolutely. Yep. So those are just those numbers. I wanted to make sure I got back to you guys with those.
Thank you. Okay, other information? We may have already covered that. I don't know. And then D was city application for facility use and special events.
I think that's just an update that everybody who applies for a special event, meaning a tennis program or a use agreement or a park, park permits are already. But any permit that's filled out for the facilities, it's a $20 processing fee, and the application needs to be signed. And so I think it was just a mention on there that we're just following city policy.
Okay.
And I believe that's why it's on here. But yes, that we're
Okay.
just continuing to follow all the correct procedures.
All right. Anything else from staff reports?
I'm good.
Okay. So we're on to number 10, commissioner and committee reports and comments. And I'm going to add on to here youth, because,
Yeah, youth and pickleball need to be added.
okay, and,
I don't think you can add those because they weren't agendized unless you do an amendment to your agenda. They can't be
Okay.
discussion items at this meeting, but you can add them for next meeting.
okay.
Well, we kind of covered both of those anyway earlier in the meeting.
Okay, does anybody have anything to report from any of those committees?
No.
Okay.
Nothing significant. I've been trying real hard to get in touch with the aquatics coordinator for the city of Santa Clarita because they have the ideal program that, given if we had an unlimited budget, of course, because they've got 2 pools and a park basically. But I've just been dropping in and most of the time she's unavailable, so.
I
I'll
appreciate
keep
you
trying.
trying.
Busy. Everybody's busy.
Okay, we do not have, Councilmember Blatz is not here, so we won't have a council liaison report. And then future meeting dates and agenda items. I think we came up with 3 that I have on my notes, which is getting a report back on the naming policy, so an update on that, and then a discussion on roles and responsibilities, which we'll make sure to get out the roles and responsibilities to everybody before then, so we can have a discussion of that. Ojai Day Table, we'll have a discussion as to what we would like to do at the table and when people want to man the table.
We want to review the presentation again, right?
Exactly, and then the last thing is our joint meeting presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is on the, and,
The 8th at
Okay.
6 PM. And it's exactly an hour.
yeah, I remember them being really strict on that.
Well, because they start their,
They start their
council
right after.
meeting at 7 PM,
Right.
so. Any other
Seems like a tactic to me.
future items? Okay, then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
See you, Tim.